4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
From the palatial yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to what is a Thursday edition of the Zach Gelb Show. across all the great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and, of course, streaming live on YouTube. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in. That's 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter X at Zach Gelb. That is ZACHGELB. Hope everyone did have a good start to the new year as we are here for our first show for 2025. I know, unfortunately, for some, that was not the case with the just absolutely terrible terrorist act that we did see in New Orleans, which, as we know now, that's why today you do have the Sugar Bowl getting pushed to 4 p.m. Eastern time, and it was supposed to be played yesterday evening. Just absolutely horrifying, whatever you were doing on New Year's Day and New Year's Eve. And, right, you go to bed and you wake up, and I think like a lot of us, you go to your phone and you see, unfortunately, what did occur. And it's absolutely horrific. It's terrible. And obviously your heart breaks for all the innocent people that lost their life, and now all the innocent people that are battling and trying to stay alive. So nothing but the best to them. And we send our condolences to anyone that did lose a loved one over the new year after what was a senseless terrorist act and just a terrible act of violence that did occur in New Orleans. And I've been to New Orleans twice in my life. I'm going back there for the Super Bowl. What a fun city to go to, always, whenever you are there. It's all about kind of food, partying, you know, having a good time. And you had a bunch of people just trying to enjoy Bourbon Street as you bring in a new year and ring in a new year. And unfortunately, you have a terrorist who did what he did. And it's just absolutely terrible. And when I elected to get out of bed on Wednesday morning and you read about it, you go, oh, my goodness gracious, where I can't say it's jarring, don't get me wrong, but it's one of those things where now with what has happened just in our world, it's still always surprising, but it is something that you just never obviously want to see, and just absolutely terrible. So I hate to start the show off that way, but, you know, sometimes you tune into the show to get a distraction, or you're just like, oh, just talk about sports. But I don't understand how anyone does a radio show without acknowledging it, especially when we're going to sit here for the next hour and, you know, really 3 hours, and we're going to talk football, and we're going to talk about Notre Dame and Georgia. And you can't talk Notre Dame and Georgia without acknowledging what did occur. And I was like everybody else yesterday. You see what happened. You get more information about what happened. And, you know, I'll give credit to Laura Rutledge. I thought she did a very good job when it pertains to football, as we were all sitting back and you got a feeling that the game was going to be pushed back. And then you don't know if it's necessarily, there's reports coming out, but no one from the Sugar Bowl was confirming it. No one from ESPN or the College Football Playoff Committee was confirming it. But you kind of got a sense once that first report did come out that was the way that it was going to play on out. So I just wanted to obviously mention that right out of the gate. Let me do this, though. When we get to the College Football Playoff games, we have now seen the first round, and we've seen 3 games of the quarterfinals as well. You go through all these games. Texas, Clemson was a stinker. Ohio State, Tennessee, a stinker. Penn State, SMU, a stinker. Notre Dame, Indiana, a stinker. Ohio State, Oregon, a stinker. Penn State, Boise State, a stinker. The only good game that you saw was Texas, Arizona State. And with that being said, Texas, Arizona State in the first half was a stinker, and then it got very good late, you know, in that fourth quarter. And you saw Cam Scatteraboo, and he was unbelievable. And then in overtime, if Arizona State could have just got off the field on 4th and 13, we're sitting here today and we're leading with Texas going down to Arizona State. And now you're having the Sun Devils move on to the semifinals, and they'll be going up against the Ohio State. But since Texas did win the game, we'll push Texas back, and we'll talk about them in 10 minutes from now. But I got to start with Ohio State. And, right, I thought it was funny. You know, I'm sitting around, and I'm getting set for my New Year's Eve plans. And I was going uptown to a buddy's apartment. They're having 20 people over for, like, dinner and, you know, have all that fun stuff that you do to welcome in a new year. And out of nowhere, just my Twitter notifications were just popping off one after another, after another, after another. And when I am kind of off the air, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say I don't ever check Twitter. I don't ever check Instagram. I don't ever check social media, because that would just be a lie. Like, I do try to unplug, and it's wild. Sitting here for the last 2 days, being off on Tuesday and Wednesday, it felt as if I missed a month without being on the air for 2 shows. So I see that I'm getting all these notifications, and I go on to Twitter, and I'm like, what the heck am I getting tagged in? And a take of mine from September is being brought back up, and I go, like, what the heck is going on out here? And I ended up finding the tweet from Old Takes Exposed, Freezing Cold Takes, and I tweeted this out after Alabama beat Georgia, that welcome to the Heisman Trophy conversation for Jalen Milroe, and welcome to the best coach in college football conversation for Kalen DeBoer. And I'm like, oh, this is how we're going to end 2024, which I thought it was very funny. I thought it was very funny. I have no problem when people bring up old takes. I give so many takes throughout the day, throughout the year, throughout the week, throughout the months, that I'm going to get some right and I'm going to get some wrong. So that take, though, was about a take that lasted maybe a week, because right after that, Alabama ended up losing to Vanderbilt. But the reason why I bring that up is I never even, I remember putting that tweet out, but I've never thought about that tweet again through the entire time of this. Like, sometimes there are times that hey, you got some bad tweets out there, and you got some takes out there that are going to get exposed, and that's part of this take business that we're all in. But I'll just go back now 33 days ago. And there's a reason why I bring up that Alabama tweet, and we saw Michigan, which, geez Louise, with no quarterback. Michigan's been able to defeat Ohio State. Michigan's been able to defeat Alabama. And that defense, even with guys like Will Johnson and Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant sitting out, it didn't matter. That defense is so damn good. And it makes you think, what happens if Michigan just had a quarterback? But the reason why I bring up that old take is I think you got to acknowledge when you get old takes wrong. And trust me, if you don't, other people will. But 33 days ago, I was sitting in a hotel room, and I was watching Michigan, Ohio State. And I was loving the fact that the Michigan Wolverines once again beat the Ohio State Buckeyes. And I sent a video out from my bed in my hotel room, just laughing and jumping up and down as if I was a fat kid in a candy store. And I think I said, and by think I said, I know I said, this was 33 days ago, by the way, that Ryan Day is the biggest fraud in college football. And it's wild because we're a little over a month later, 33 days to be exact later. And now I sit here and I'm in stunned disbelief that Ohio State is 2 wins away from not only winning the national championship, but I will sit here and say it, I would be absolutely stunned at this point if they don't win the national championship. No offense to Texas. I was not blown away by Texas's defense up against Clemson. I was not blown away by Texas yesterday up against Arizona State. Ohio State on paper is just better. Congratulations to Penn State for beating Boise State at SMU. We've already seen Ohio State be better than Penn State this year. We will see who prevails between Stu's Notre Dame Fighting Irish and the Georgia Bulldogs. But still, even if Notre Dame wins, even if Georgia wins, whoever, I'm not going to sit here tomorrow and say, man, I think Notre Dame is going to beat Ohio State in the championship game, assuming that Notre Dame gets through Penn State, or the same could be said for Georgia. Ohio State is the favorite to win it all, and Ohio State should win it all. But it is crazy when you look back to where we were 33 days ago. 33 days ago, Ohio State fans, not just Zach Gelb, not just national media members, not just people who don't like Ohio State fans wanted nothing to do with Ryan Day. And if you were supporting Ryan Day, it's just because you were Ohio State sycophant, if we're being honest. No one was happy with Ryan Day because that Michigan team is nowhere close to being on the same talent level as this Ohio State team. And Michigan couldn't complete a forward pass, and you still lost to them. Because you had a coach who was arrogant, a coach who was smug, and a coach who was acting like a fake tough guy, trying to beat Michigan a certain way instead of just doing and coaching what were the strengths of his team that would have made it an easy victory. But even in that moment, it's weird to say that it was needed, because even if Ohio State beats Michigan, it's like, yeah, obviously they could have won it all. You know, they lost to Michigan, and now they're the favorite to win it all. But losing to Michigan, even though a team shouldn't need a wake-up call when you're that good, it provided them a dose of reality. It provided them a wake-up call. Because if they didn't have that game, who knows how the rest of the season plays out? They still could have beat Tennessee. Who knows where they would have been seated? Who knows where they would have been in the Big Ten? Like, all that stuff. You don't know where they would have been. And you don't know what the matchups would have been. But that moment, you talk about potential, and potential means you haven't done it yet. And you kept on hearing all throughout the year, they're going to beat Michigan. They're going to beat Michigan. But that moment of humiliation, I think, brought out the best in this group, which it's crazy to think about. And there was no reason to believe that this team with all that talent was going to go on to do what they're possibly going on to do right now after the Michigan game. But they not only defeated Tennessee, they smothered Tennessee. They humiliated Tennessee. And I sat here after that Tennessee game and I said, oh boy, Ohio State, in the version that I thought they could have been before the year, now they're looking like that version. And it seems as if the Michigan game is out of the system. But with that being said, there was still a, yeah, but now you got to get through Oregon. And it wasn't inconceivable to say before the game that Ohio State was going to beat Oregon. But if you told me that Ohio State was going to dismantle Oregon and the game was going to be over by halftime and they would end up winning the game by 20 points and it could have been worse, I would have never believed you. If you would have called me last week at 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227, and you would have said, Zach, Ohio State is going to drag Oregon from end zone to end zone and it will never be a contest, I would have probably laughed you off the air. But that's what Ohio State did. And I know that I said a few weeks ago, Oregon or the field, who do you take? And I even said, whenever you give me so-and-so or the field, I usually like to take the field, but I'm going to take Oregon. I ended up being wrong. In this case now, when you say Ohio State or the field, and the field remaining is Texas, Penn State, still Notre Dame and Georgia, I don't see how anyone could really tell me right now in great confidence that you don't believe that Ohio State's going to win it all. Trust me, I would love to see Ryan Day be crying Day at one point in his next two games, because he still does annoy me. But even I will admit, his team is now galvanized, his team has now come together, and they've always had the talent. It was, can they put it together? This roster is absolutely loaded. But was Ryan Day or Chip Kelly, were they going to mess it up like they did up against Michigan? Up against Tennessee, they got that feeling out of your system. And now after what they just did to the number one team in the country, they lost to earlier in the season by 1 point, they fully got any doubt in your system about Ohio State. Because, you know, bare minimum, if they're not in the championship game, and I know it's a home field advantage, right, for Texas, but if they're not in the national championship game, Ohio State, I'll be stunned. And if you tell me they get to the national championship game and like Penn State has a great day or Notre Dame has a great day or Georgia has a great day, okay, like I could see a little bit of it. But I'll tell you right now, until Ohio State loses a game, I'm not picking against them the rest of the year. Because they didn't only win. They won with a message and a purpose to prove. And we could all sit here and we could all acknowledge we laughed at them, as we should. We all said 33 days ago, what a bunch of jokes. You know, what a bunch of frauds. What a bunch of losers. How did you beat this Michigan team? But that really was the coffee that they needed and the caffeine that they needed to bring out this potential greatness from this team. And you're seeing it now with not only winning, but dismantling Tennessee and then emasculating Oregon. So I can't sit here and tell you, even though I would love to see, I don't want to see Penn State win it all. So I'm rooting for Texas, Notre Dame, or Georgia, if I'm being honest. But let me tell you, if I have to sit here in a few weeks and I have to go to that national championship game and I have to see Ryan Day against James Franklin, oh boy, I got to figure out which disease I'm going to root for and which disease I'm going to pick to have. But that will be a tough predicament for your boy, Zach Gelb, if I have to see, do I want to see Penn State win or do I want to see Ohio State win? That's going to be tough. But right now, as I currently sit here, and I just call it how I see it, you ask me Ohio State or the field, I'm taking Ohio State. That's the poll question that you can find it on social media at Zach Gelb at INF Sportsnet. Do you take Ohio State or the field to win the national championship? Right now, Ohio State's only getting, this is really close, 49.3% of the vote. The field is getting 50.7% of the vote. So do you take Ohio State or the field? If you're taking the field, who do you like? Is it Georgia who plays Notre Dame today? Is it Notre Dame who plays Georgia today? Or are you going with one of the teams that have already advanced in Texas or potentially Penn State as well? But man, that was some performance that we saw in the granddaddy of them all, where the granddaddy of them all ended up being the granddud of them all, because I for sure thought we were going to have a one-score game late between Oregon and Ohio State, and the only time that game was close was right at kickoff. We will take a timeout. When we do return, we'll get into the reaction from Texas-Arizona State, which has been the best college football playoff game so far, and we'll try to figure out what the heck targeting is and why I have a little bit of a different take than probably everybody else that you listen to today. We'll get into all that when we return on our first show of 2025. Happy New Year to all. This is the Zach Gelb Show right here on the Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. I did just see during the break that Alabama's quarterback Jalen Milroe, he is declared for the 2025 NFL Draft. I think that's a mistake. I saw that Carson Beck has already declared as well. I think that is also a mistake. Both those two guys, we were told heading into this year that they were going to be awesome. They were going to be dynamite. They were going to be unbelievable. There's not many moments this year that I can recall where I looked at Carson Beck and was like, wow. You know, maybe in the second half up against Alabama after that dreadful first half, and he still had an interception at the end of the game. And Jalen Milroe gave you a few wow moments, but the problem is he's so damn inconsistent. He's got to narrow the gap from the floor of Jalen Milroe, which is really, really down there, and then the ceiling, which is all the way up there. But there's no, middle ground for Jalen Milroe. It's either he's popping off and his head's hitting the ceiling, or he's stumbling on the floor and can't find a way to stand back up. So I've said this 9,000 times throughout the college football season. I'll say it again. If I had a top 10 pick, I would only feel comfortable using it on Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. Now, can Jalen Milroe become a first-round pick? Can Carson Beck become a first-round pick this year? I guess. But I don't think you use that first-round pick and you anticipate that either is going to be a franchise quarterback. You know, Beck I'm really down on. Milroe, I think he needed to go back another season to improve on the passing. For Carson Beck, though, it's like you were supposed to be the number one guy. For Jalen Milroe, it was, we hope you be this. We hope you be that. Beck was supposed to be the guy. And he was the farthest thing from being the guy this year. And now a lot of people believe that, just getting a different quarterback in there like a Gunnar Stockton, and we'll see what happens today, means that Georgia's going to be better because of that. And also you had the Carson Beck injury as well. So both of these guys could end up coming back. They declared today. Remember last year, Cam Ward did declare. He ended up coming back. So I guess they could come back, but geez Louise, Carson Beck and Jalen Milroe, if you go through with this, if you end up being a first-round pick, congratulations. Do I anticipate that either will be a franchise quarterback with what I've seen so far? No, I do not. But we've seen guys that haven't been able to put it together before, and those guys are more accomplished. Like Jalen Milroe and Carson Beck are more accomplished than anything Anthony Richardson ever did in college football. And Anthony Richardson was sold to us based off potential, and he ended up being a top 5 pick in the draft. Am I going to believe, though, that Milroe or Beck are going to be a top 5 pick in the draft or even a top 10 pick in the draft? Absolutely not. And I'll tell you, Dylan Gabriel, I thought, had a chance yesterday to put the flag in the ground and really say, hey, I'm the third best quarterback in this draft class. And that entire Oregon team was god-awful. So after you get past the debate of Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward, who's going to be that third guy in the draft is going to be absolutely positively fascinating. And Quinn Ewers, that's another name. Like, he played well yesterday. I wouldn't use a first-round pick, an early first-round pick on Quinn Ewers. I would only feel comfortable really using a first pick at all. Just forget top 10, top 15 on only Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. But a guy like Quinn Ewers, with how much money he's probably could make for next season in college football and has another year of eligibility left, maybe Quinn Ewers, who's going to be leaving Texas at the end of the year one way or another. I really do. Even if they win a national championship, I still think Arch Manning is going to be their quarterback next year. But imagine if Arch ends up going to the transfer portal. Oh, geez, that would be something. Arch and Belichick, the Manning little relationship that goes on there. But I do think that Quinn Ewers has a decision to make. And we've already seen Jalen Milroe say he's going to go pro. We've now seen Carson Beck say he's going to go pro. Does Quinn Ewers, if he ends up winning a national championship, maybe he's going to parlay himself into the third best quarterback of this draft class, and then he's going to have to go. But if he just happens to lose to Ohio State next week and he doesn't play well, then yeah. Could I see him transferring somewhere else? I definitely think that's on the table because I don't think it's crazy to say he could make like $4, $5, $6 million next year to go play college football. So we'll see what happens there. But Jalen Milroe is, for now, off to the NFL draft. By the way, Stu Kovacs is here. He's wearing that green Notre Dame Fighting Irish t-shirt that he has. And you're very pumped up, I'm assuming, for the game today.
Oh, yeah.
At 4 p.m. Eastern time. Where's the confidence meter? Notre Dame wins the game, 0-100. Where's your confidence?
I'd say like a 47. I think it's going to be a really close game. And if I had to be right, I'd say Georgia wins, but I think it could go either way.
And probably just more so a fear that you've been in this spot so many times before. I know It's a new college football playoff format, but you've been in so many of these big games, and they've ended up being a big dud. But I would say that this is the first big game that I can remember, at least since I got here to the network in 2018, where I actually have confidence that Notre Dame is going to win the game. And I actually think that it's possible for Notre Dame to win the game. All these other years, I've never thought that Notre Dame has had a shot to win the game. I
agree. Obviously, the Bama game, the national championship, nobody really thought they were going to win that. And then the two Clemson ones, this is the time to strike. I think this is their best chance to do something like this. And nothing against Indiana, but this is a totally different animal than Indiana.
Oh yeah, we can all say it now. That was a tune-up game. There was no way that Indiana was ever beating Notre Dame. What did you do, by the way? You were off for a long time because you were out right around Christmas and then through the new year. This is your first day back, in like 10 days or something like that?
About right, yeah.
Did you do anything fun, or you just kind of chill?
A bunch of day stuff with families and stuff. Her family, my family.
Gotcha.
Seen some friends I haven't seen in a while. So it was a bunch of day trips, really. Nothing too crazy.
Yeah, this week seems like it's just a week of forever. Monday I worked. I went to fish at the Garden, which was some experience. I did enjoy myself, but it was some experience on Monday night. Tuesday, right, you get ready for New Year's Eve. Watch the college football playoff game, then go to whatever party you go to. Yesterday was, I would say, a recovery day. And then you had the 2 college football games. We thought we were going to have the 3 college football games. But I'll tell you, and I know I say this, and this could be the pot calling the kettle black. I say this is somebody that's a loud, energetic media personality. When I tuned in, because I got out of bed, that game started yesterday, 1 o'clock, right? When I tuned in for that first game for Texas and Arizona State, I rolled that. I have not slept till like 12:45, 12:50 for a while, until I got out of my bed, changed my clothes, walked to my couch, did no physical activity yesterday whatsoever, the first time in a while. And when I sat on the couch and I turned on the TV and the first voice I heard was the loud Joe Tessitore, I'm like, this is not helping my hangover. This is not helping my hangover whatsoever. But thankfully, the game ended up giving us something, because through the first 3 quarters, that game stunk. And really, it reminded me a lot like the Boise State game that we just saw the night before up against Penn State, where who clearly the better team is, and the inferior team, as it being Arizona State and Boise State, were kept on giving opportunity after opportunity after Texas and Penn State took big swings, and they're off to these big starts. And you saw Boise State the night before, never were able to capitalize. I thought they capitalized for a second, and they got called back for, hands to the face. And then Arizona State, you thought was going to go down the same way as Boise State was. where it's like, all right, at the end of the game, you're going to say, oh, we could have done this, we could have done that. But it was just so clear that Texas was that much better. And then it changed in that fourth quarter. Because in the fourth quarter, it's 24-8. There's no reason to think Arizona State's coming on back. I had the points with the Sun Devils, so I'm like, all right, at least just cover. Go get a touchdown and cover. And they did that trick play with Cam Scatterbo where he threw the touchdown pass. And then, like a minute 30 later, they end up tying the game and getting another 2-point conversion. So that game's sitting there at 24-24. You have the missed kick by Texas, the first missed kick. And then Arizona State is getting the ball back. And it's third down, and I think it was 3rd and 15. They complete the pass. And then you had what should have been called the targeting, but it wasn't called the targeting. And I don't know about you, Stu. I hate the targeting rule. I do. It's so inconsistent how they call it. And I know that you don't want to make it ambiguous because I think it's all about intent, at least for me, is the way that the rule should be. And if you say, oh, what's the intent, then it makes it even more vague than what it is now. But with how targeting is called, and I could separate what I think should happen and what I think, will happen. But with how targeting is called and watching college football all throughout the year, when I first saw the hit, I did not think the hit was vicious. I did not think the hit was egregious, to be clear. The guy's trying to make a tackle, and it's a high-speed, high-collision contact sport. So sometimes the head is going to play a factor. But once you see the replay, and that's the big part because it was reviewed, it had to be called targeting. And I hate to be that guy, but if the roles were reversed, and that was Texas that was on the other side of it, they're getting the call in that spot. And I usually don't like to play that card, but that's what I just feel. And I get paid to give you what I'm just feeling and tell you my honest emotions on it. So with all that being said, that's not the number one reason why Arizona State lost the game. And I get it. It's a first down. It moves the chains. There's not a lot of time left on the clock. They still have to make a kick, and they still have to move the ball up, which in the first half, the special teams for Arizona State was a disaster. And then it got so much better in the second half. It's almost as if Texas and Arizona State swapped identities in terms of what they were going to do from the special teams. But when that game gets to overtime, I don't think there is a person on the planet, unless you had money on Texas, which at that rate, covering the spread doesn't help you. So maybe you have a future in terms of Texas win a national championship, or you went to Texas or you're a fan of Texas. I don't think there's a person else in the country, unless if you fall in one of those categories, that was not rooting for Arizona State. Because Cam Scatterbo was really damn good. He put the team on his back. Sam Levitt made some big plays. That third down run in overtime. And then eventually Scatterbo gets in the end zone where his lineman threw him in, which was awesome. And it's 31-24. And in that moment, the game's not over. But it's okay. Now can Arizona State get a stop? And when it's 4th and 13 and you blitz and you still let someone get behind you and you get that Matthew Golden touchdown, looking back at it, that's the biggest moment in this game. Not if the targeting was called or not. It was the 4th and 13. I get if you're irate why the targeting wasn't called. But on 4th and 13, if you want to advance to the next round, that's what you could control. And you couldn't get off the field. And then, by the way, I thought it was just my TV at first, or I thought it was maybe because I was moving slow that day. ESPN was late for the second overtime, and you missed like about 2 seconds of what ended up being a touchdown right out of the gate. And you know what? The TV misses it. I don't think it should count. Obviously, I'm kidding when I say that, but then you had that touchdown, and eventually Levitt throws the pick. So it was a valiant effort. It was a great effort from Arizona State. We finally got a close finish and a game that was worth watching, even though it didn't look like that was going to be the case for about 3.5 quarters. And then it got really damn good. And man, it would have been awesome if Arizona State could have won that game, because what Cam Scatterbo did was just out of this world. That dude is a man. He's puking and rallying. I don't know what the heck he was doing the night before. I heard him today on the Dan Patrick Show. He said that he ate like a croissant or something, and it just never agreed with him. And then once he finally vomited on the side, then that's when he felt good. But I didn't think he was going to make it through the game. At first, when I saw him on the side, I go, ooh, he looks rough. And then, boom, he just had an effort, and it was almost as if he was a robot. He was an absolute machine. But I look back at that game. We could sit there and we could bitch about the targeting, complain about the targeting. And hey, I get it. If I was an Arizona State fan, that's what I would be doing. And I hate targeting. I hate how it's called, all that stuff. At first look, I didn't think it was egregious. Then when you watch it over and over and over and over and over again, yeah, that's called 10 times out of 10. And it wasn't called. And I can understand how people say, oh, if that was Texas, they're going to get the call. But still, you had 4th and 13 in overtime. You only allowed 12 yards. You win the game. You're off to the semifinal. You're playing what would end up being Ohio State, and you couldn't get off the field. That, to me, is where I start if I'm an Arizona State fan today, because you needed to get off the field. And then also you could say, what an unbelievable season. What a magical ride. We were picked last in the Big 12, and look where you were now. You're in the second round of the college football playoff. So congratulations to them. Texas advances. I still don't think Texas is winning it all. I do believe Ohio State's going to beat Texas coming up next week. So what was your reaction to the no targeting call? Do you think that was the difference in the game? I still think the biggest difference in the biggest sequence was not being able to get off the field in overtime on 4th and 13. 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227. We'll take a timeout. We'll update you some of the biggest storylines in the world of sports when we come on back. We call that segment the news brief. But first up, I don't even know the name of this update anchor.
Nor do I.
How you been?
I'm getting there. There. It's been a long recovery. I had back surgery for anybody that, not that it's a big deal, but, it was much longer than I anticipated. It's still going, too.
I'm going to be honest, and I always know that Ack is a hardworking, dedicated guy. When I heard that you were supposed to return like a week after the surgery, I go, there's no way Ack is coming back. I'm actually so surprised that you are back today.
You have to rip off the Band-Aid at some point. You got to see what, if you can do it. I still think my practice window has been open. I haven't been activated quite yet.
But what happens then if you don't make the full return in 3 weeks?
We'll find out soon enough. But
you look great. Like if I didn't know what happened to you, I would have no clue.
Yeah, my doctor, Dr. Shiraz Qureshi, who's unbelievable, I might add, and has fortunately for them as well operated on some professional athletes. Told me, you do this on a Thursday, you could be back at work on a Monday. And I thought, there's no way.
At least milk it, especially this time of the year.
And so we actually wound up doing it on a Monday. So I take the whole week off. And I thought, okay, so he tells me I could be back in 4 days. 7 should be okay, And I tell my physician, and he says, yeah, it sounds about right. And I'm going through this. I'm like, are you guys nuts? So it was a lot more than I bargained for. Look, I had to do it. I had no choice. But, I wasn't expecting to be out, and I'm still wasn't expecting to even be still hurting at this point. But, look, we're on the right road as Dr. Qureshi keeps telling me, and, we go from there.
Well, it's great to have you back, and let's get to the news brief when we come up back. Update time first. Here he is, the man with the great back now, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
Well, Patrick Mahomes may be more concerned with becoming part of the first team in NFL history to three-peat as champs, but the Chiefs quarterback snubbed for the Pro Bowl as Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow got the nod in the AFC. Jackson, one of 9 Ravens selected. The Lions led the NFC with a total of 7. 6 Eagles also recognized. Notre Dame and Georgia take the field shortly in the Sugar Bowl, not only playing for the right to meet Penn State, but also trying to raise the spirits in New Orleans after the game was postponed until today to ensure the safety of everyone following the terrorist attack that took place New Year's Day, killing 12 people and injuring 15. Pistons guard Jaden Ivey reportedly suffered a broken fibula last night in a freak collision with Orlando's Cole Anthony, who slipped and fell into Ivey. Ivey is expected to miss most of the remainder of the regular season. The Oklahoma City Thunder are currently the NBA's hottest team with 12 straight wins and look to make it 13 in a row tonight at home against the Clippers, while the Celtics are in Minnesota to meet the Timberwolves as the defending champs are looking for their 25th win of the season. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Hey, like us on Facebook. Our handle is INF Sportsnet. That's INF Sportsnet for our Facebook page. This is the Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break.
4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
First show for us in the year of 2025. Happy New Year to all. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. I'll get to a news brief in just a second. 855-212-4227. Jeff in California wants to chime in on the Texas-Arizona State game. Jeff, what's happening?
Hey, Zach. Happy New Year.
You too.
What I wanted to comment on was, that was a great game. It didn't surprise me a bit. My son's a freshman at ASU. It was like catching lightning in a bottle this year. I went down and watched them play. I knew about that team, and I knew about the Big 12 Conference because I started paying attention. What I want to say about that is, the targeting call, ASU would have won that game. I fully believe if that was called. The only comfort I take is that it was 4th and 13. They make that stop, game's over. Okay, so, they had a couple of opportunities, right? One, the refs kind of stole the game, I believe. The other, they had another opportunity to take the game, and they didn't. So, whatever. But here's the thing. Hopefully now everybody's going to see the bias that is the SEC lie. Okay, does anybody talk about the decimation of Tennessee by Ohio State?
Yeah.
Does anybody now look at Arizona State outgained Texas in every statistical category yesterday. But yet still we get all these preseason rankings of these SEC teams, and conferences like the ACC and the Big 12 have no chance because none of their teams are ranked. Missouri's ranked in the top.
Yeah, but here's the thing. The ACC got 2 teams into the playoff this year. They got 2. And also, we'll see what happens between Georgia and Notre Dame. But if Georgia wins today, then we'll have 2 SEC teams in the Final Four. So I understand the easy thing to do and appreciate the phone call, Jeff. And I understand this has not been a banner year for the SEC. The easy thing to do is rag on the SEC, and then people tell me these bowl games mean nothing, and then when the SEC loses a bowl game, it's like, oh, it's this big deal, right? And it's like, all right, how many of those guys are actually playing? So I'm not going to sit here and going to rip apart the SEC today. Maybe there's another day to do that, but if Georgia beats Notre Dame today, Georgia's in the Final Four, Texas in the Final Four, they're SEC, and then you have Penn State, and you also have Ohio State. So then it kind of falls in line that the 2 best conferences are the Big Ten and the SEC. And no offense, I don't think there's a national host that supports, that doesn't have an affiliation with one of these conferences, the Big 12 and the AC. We do college football year-round. I love talking to. We've had Arizona State guests after Arizona State guests. But you look at it, there's a chance after today, even though I think Notre Dame's going to win, there is a chance that after today, when you get ready for this evening, that you have 2 SEC teams remaining and 2 Big Ten teams remaining. So even in a horrible year, right, for the SEC, they definitely will have 1 in the Final Four. They still could have 2. Let's get to a news brief.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
The playmaker, Michael Irvin, was on FS1 with Colin Cowherd via The Herd, and he said, or was asked, would he move on from Mike McCarthy this offseason?
Yes, I would. Yes, I would. I just think it's time to go in another direction.
Okay.
And I hear this late surge to maybe go in to stay with Mike McCarthy. I'm not on that. I'm not on that bandwagon. What I believe is this team needs more discipline. I'm not saying Mike McCarthy is not a good coach, X's and O's coach, but I think the team needs more discipline.
That's a fair thing to say. It's tough for me to really rag on McCarthy this year because of how many injuries that the Cowboys have. I think they're going to bring him back for another year. I do. I think they'll give him a 2-year contract extension if he wants it, and it will really be a 1-year extension. Go get the job done next year, and then we'll reevaluate it the year after that. Let's go to Adam Schefter. He was on Unsportsmanlike, and he was asked, will teams try to trade for J.J. McCarthy?
In a limited quarterback draft class where there are far more teams that need quarterbacks and quarterbacks who actually can step in right away, I definitely think teams will be checking in with the Vikings to see if they have any interest in trading J.J. McCarthy. Now, they may say we don't, and that's the end of it. But do I think teams will explore that option that you just raised here already? Of course. Absolutely. 100%. Because J.J. McCarthy would have been a top, if not the top quarterback prospect in this draft. And if the Vikings decided that they wanted to trade him, which I don't know if they will, I believe they would get back everything they put into him and then some. It would be a one and then some.
I'd be curious to see what the return is. I know what Schefter just said, but what the return is for J.J. McCarthy. Now, Schefter is a Michigan guy, so obviously he's going to be pro J.J. McCarthy, but McCarthy coming off a knee injury, what's the return for J.J. McCarthy when you could argue what his potential was in the NFL? But this is a down quarterback draft class, and not everyone could go get Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward. So if you're one of those teams that aren't in the top 5, do you maybe say, okay, we'll pull the trigger on J.J. McCarthy? And that's assuming that the Vikings trade him and they end up keeping Sam Darnold. They could say goodbye to Sam Darnold, too. It's crazy, but it's awesome that the Vikings after Sunday night could actually get the number 1 seed in the NFL, in the NFC, if they just take care of business and beat the Detroit Lions. Okay, let's go to Ryan Day. He praises his Buckeyes team that's 2 wins away from winning the national championship.
This team is resilient, and when you surround yourself with great people, with great character, you find yourself working through difficult times. And at the end of the day, we wanted to win a national championship, and the way that we got here wasn't what we expected. It wasn't what we planned for. But nonetheless, we had an opportunity to come back and play Oregon after we'd already played them early in the season, and that's the only thing that mattered.
And they got their revenge. And that Michigan game, even though they didn't beat them this year, kind of brought out a different animal and a different beast in this team and a different level in this team. With a team that we know they're the most talented team in college football, but with what they're doing the last 2 games, Tennessee and then Oregon, my oh my, the Tennessee game was impressive. The Oregon game is really, really impressive. It's the biggest statement so far in the college football playoff. Let's go to Dan Lanning on facing Ohio State after the long layoff.
We had an opportunity. We didn't take advantage of our opportunity. I'm not going to make excuses for our opportunity, right? And ultimately, you got to be great teams to be in position at the end of the year, and we didn't do that. This is the road that we had to travel, and they did it better than us tonight. So no complaints for us for having that opportunity. They just took advantage of it, and we didn't.
And it's a really solid season for Oregon. First year in the Big Ten. You didn't lose a game until the playoff, and you won a Big Ten championship. But if you would have lost that game by 3 points or a touchdown to Ohio State, I think it's a different conversation. But you had a golden opportunity that if you would have just won Ohio State, you wouldn't have been a dog against any other team the rest of the year. And you had a chance to win a national championship game and win a national championship. But not only did you get annihilated in the quarterfinals, like, it was one thing to lose the game, but you got annihilated in the quarterfinals. So that was just so disappointing. That's the most stunning part of the college football playoff so far. And I know people are going to talk about the layoff. Boise State had a layoff. Arizona State had a layoff, but they're not better teams on paper than Penn State and Texas. So I don't think the layoff conversation is fair. Could the layoff have impacted Oregon? I think that's kind of a loser mentality. To me, Ohio State, you just got them at the worst possible time. Because they are a more talented team than you. You were the better team for most of the year, but they're getting hot at the right time. And your team is just really good. You're the most consistent team in college football. But I don't think it mattered who was on the other sideline yesterday. Ohio State was going to find a way to get the job done.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Yo, it is the Zach Gelb Show, hour number 2 of our radio program, 855-212-4227. You can always get me on social media, Twitter and Instagram, at Zach Gelb. Our poll question is there today. Do you take Ohio State or the field to win the national championship? I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm taking Ohio State. 49.8% right now say Ohio State, 50.2% say the field. This could be the closest poll question we've ever had. Still 2 hours to get in on the poll question at Zach Gelb, at INF Sportsnet. You don't usually get a lot of live sporting events when you do 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, noon to 3 p.m. Pacific on a national radio program. I think the last sporting event that we had that we were invested in, or I was invested in, was back when it was a Met playoff game, or maybe even at the end of the season. It was the Mets needed to win that doubleheader at the end of the year. They need to win one game up against the Braves. And we had on Mark Stoops, as I remember asking him a question from a few weeks ago about why he didn't go for it against Ole Miss. And then he got his revenge when he did go for it a few weeks later. I think it was actually Ole Miss that they beat. And it was another opponent a few weeks prior that he didn't go for it. But I remember that he was given like a really heated answer, a really good answer. And then I saw that the Mets squandered a lead, and I just did not even pay attention to what he was saying. And then we had Aaron Murray on, and that was when the Mets were winning the game. So it was all that mayhem. But with obviously the unfortunate terrorist event that did occur, an act that did occur on New Year's Day in New Orleans, we had the Sugar Bowl pushback from what was supposed to be 8:45 p.m. Eastern time yesterday to 4 p.m. Eastern time today. So this game is about to get underway. And once again, we send out all of our thoughts and prayers to anyone and any innocent person that was impacted by what did occur and what did transpire in New Orleans. And if you're a hospital right now and you're fighting to save your life, we wish you nothing but the best. And unfortunately, we did have people pass away from just a terrible, terrible terrorist act that we had to see. And my heart breaks for all those families that, you think about starting a new year and it's supposed to be a fun time, and you have to deal with the ultimate tragedy to kick off 2025. So nothing but the best to everyone that's going through a very tough time now. Getting to the football, though, because we are now down to 5 teams remaining. After today, we'll be down to 4 teams remaining. We know Texas and Ohio State is already through. You had that crazy game between Texas and Arizona State the other day. The targeting is a big point. And I also think the bigger point is, even though the targeting should have been called, 4th and 13, you're Arizona State. You get off the field in overtime. You're in the next round. You go up against Ohio State. That's just the bottom line. So we reacted to that game. We've talked about what's the most surprising result so far in the college football playoff. Not that Ohio State won and Ohio State beat Oregon, but it was the fact that that game wasn't even close. And could you imagine if we didn't get the fourth quarter and the overtime that we got between Arizona State and Texas? We would have had one good game so far. At least we saw a good quarter and a little bit of 2 overtime periods, so we at least get somewhat of a good game. But up until that, these college football playoff games have been duds. That's why I kind of think Notre Dame, Georgia, and I know we had Penn State, Boise State, the Broncos go down. That game was never really all that close. Penn State was the better team. They gave Boise State opportunities, and Boise State just couldn't get the job done. But I feel as if we're due from a start to a finish, just a really good, complete game. And I think we're going to get that right now between Notre Dame and Georgia. It may not be the prettiest game to watch. I think both of these offenses will be a little sloppy. We know both these defenses and their capabilities. And we know Xavier Watts of Notre Dame is one of the best defensive players in the country. So I think if you get to 24 points today, you should win the game. Would it surprise me if it is lower than that and this is a 20-17 barn burner? No, it would not. Even if it's even closer, maybe, a lower than that, like a 17, 16, 17, 14, 17, 13 type of game, that wouldn't surprise me. My official prediction, I'm going Notre Dame 24, and I'm taking Georgia to lose by 4 points, 24-20. And I've been here since 2018, where there was weekend overnights, 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern time, Monday through Friday. The last 2 years or so, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern time in this time slot. And I have never took the cheese with Notre Dame. Would not. I never wanted to take the cheese and then just get smacked by the trap, because usually it is always a trap with Notre Dame. I just think timing is everything. And you see the talent that Ohio State has, right? And they go up against Oregon. It looks like as if it was the varsity against the JV because it's timing. Ohio State, they get embarrassed by Michigan. they beat the brakes off Tennessee, and they beat the living snot out of Oregon. I look at timing in this one. Timing is everything. And if Notre Dame, if this can't be your time now, then when the heck is it ever going to be your time? Because you're going up against Gunnar Stockton. Don't get me wrong. Gunnar Stockton may be better than Carson Beck. It was Mike Sanford, the former football coach, who joined us earlier in the week, and he said he thinks Gunnar Stockton is Stetson Bennett, but with actual talent. And Carson Beck, say what you want about him, I don't think he is, and I've been one of his tougher critics, I don't think he's as bad as the way that he played this year, but he just didn't have the it factor this year. So I would rather go with the unknown of Gunnar Stockton, and you never want to see a player like Carson Beck get hurt or any player get hurt, than what was just not working with Carson Beck. So is there a chance that Gunnar Stockton plays lights out today? Right? Not a lot of film on him. Notre Dame doesn't have a lot to prepare for, even though they've had a while to prepare for this game, and Gunnar Stockton just carves you up. Yeah, it's a possibility. And that's the great unknown with Georgia right now. But I just look at Notre Dame with their two running backs, starting with Jeremiah Love, Riley Leonard, who's not great, but he's good enough, the physical offensive line that Notre Dame has, and then their defense being really damn good. I just think it's time for Notre Dame to get the job done. This is not Georgia of the last 3 years. Can Georgia still win a national championship? Yes, that's how great the Georgia program has become. But this is a Georgia team that they have looked human this year. This is a Georgia team that if it was a 4-team playoff, there would have been moments where we would have been questioning if they were going to get in. Heck, even in a 12-team playoff, there were moments for about a week or two if we were questioning that if Georgia would get in. But for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, you want to talk about a huge game. And we talk about these redemption stories, right, with the teams remaining. Sark with all that he's had to overcome in his life. Ryan Day, 33 days ago, getting embarrassed, getting humiliated. Basically was tarred and feathered after that game by everyone in the Ohio State community and outside the Ohio State community. He was a joke, and now he's 2 wins away from winning a national championship. My best friend, James Franklin, no coach that I've supported more in college football, right? I've always been a big James Franklin supporter. Big game James. But you look at James Franklin, right? That's another guy. Not able to win the big game. You know, keeps on compiling wins, but doesn't win the games. And I know you could say, hey, Boise State, no disrespect to the Broncos. We've been as supportive to the Broncos as anybody. No disrespect to SMU. But this is a different level on whoever's going to win this game between Notre Dame and Georgia when they go up against Penn State in the Orange Bowl coming up next week, right? Just different. That's the first really, really, really true big test for Penn State in the college football playoff. And then you have to exercise those demons if you are James Franklin. And if you do that and you get to a championship game, I do think there will be a different tune being sung about James Franklin. But you look at the 3 teams that remain and you look at their coaches and you see, hey, what Sark has had to overcome, what Ryan Day has had to overcome, and then also what James Franklin has had to overcome, we know Kirby Smart's the standard. If Kirby Smart is one of the 4 coaches remaining after this game, he is the best coach in college football. Now, there is adversity that team has had to overcome this year, but out of the 4 coaches remaining, if Georgia does go through, he is by far and away the best coach in college football. But if Marcus Freeman gets this win today, it is the biggest win that I can remember for Notre Dame in a long time, and it's a signature victory for Marcus Freeman. And you want to talk about redemption stories. Who would have thought before the year started? I'm not going to say that Notre Dame would be here, right? And not crazy. In a 12-team playoff, you should make it every year. Can you win one playoff game and be in the second round? Absolutely. It's designed for Notre Dame to get in every year. But after what we saw, where in week 1, they were good up against A&M. They go into A&M Aggie land. You get a victory to start off the season. But then they were never able to reel it back in, regroup, and they went up against Northern Illinois. And Coach Hammock and company were the better team that day, and they beat Notre Dame. When that was week 2 of the college football season, and Notre Dame went down to Northern Illinois, no one in their right mind, even though you still could have saw a way that Notre Dame got into the playoff, no one would have been saying, hey, if Notre Dame gets up against Georgia, right? If I told you after that Northern Illinois loss, hey, Notre Dame still makes the playoff, but they have to eventually face Georgia. There's this team Indiana. They're going to be good this year with the Signetti guy. If they beat Indiana, but then they're going to have to play Georgia. Even if I told you they were in the second round after they lost to Northern Illinois and they'd be going up against Georgia, you would say, I don't care what the number is, you lay it with the Georgia Bulldogs. You absolutely lay it with the Georgia Bulldogs. And this game is basically a coin flip. The last time I checked, I saw Georgia was, a 1-point favorite? I'm taking Notre Dame outright. I'm taking Notre Dame on the money line. But that, to me, is the story of this game. On the Notre Dame side, it is Marcus Freeman, who's had some bad losses there. Lost to Charles Huff and Marshall. Lost to Coach Hammock and Northern Illinois. There have been some bad losses, and I mean brutally bad losses for Notre Dame. But since you are the coach at Notre Dame, since you have enough talent and the way the system is, you're able to win a ton of games. But now you got to win the biggest game that you've coached in at Notre Dame since you've taken over being the head coach. And if you do this, this changes the perception, at least in the short term, about how people view Notre Dame. Because I think Notre Dame, where there were some really ugly times, like with Charlie Weiss, right, to some really brutal times. But in the last decade or so, and give credit to what Brian Kelly was able to do before he went to the LSU Tigers and his family. And all of a sudden you had Brian Kelly just with a different accent and a different voice. But when you take a glance at Notre Dame the last decade or so, they've been the definition of a good program, not a great program. We know the brand is a great brand, but they were the definition of a very good team, not a great team. This is a moment to display up against the standard of college football the last 3 to 4 years of Georgia that you could be a great team. And if you don't win this one, people are going to say, classic, same old Notre Dame. Because even though Gunnar Stockton may give Georgia the better chance to win right now over Carson Beck, it's still going to be talked about and it's still going to be perceived as, oh, Notre Dame lost to a backup quarterback. So the Notre Dame side, the person to watch is Marcus Freeman, advancing Notre Dame forward back to where they should be. And then for Georgia, who has the ball right out of the gate at 2nd and 12, it's going to be, what does Gunnar Stockton give you? And Gunnar Stockton just got sacked, so that's going to bring up 3rd and long as Notre Dame tries to set the tone for this one. Just don't have the Arizona State defense here on 3rd and long, and it looks like Notre Dame should be able to get off the field. Sorry, that wasn't all that nice to Samter, who's here, and he's a big Arizona State fan. Samter, by the way, thankfully, I had cable, because if I was in a spot where I didn't have cable yesterday, Samter, heavy on the texting yesterday, all during Arizona State, fired off text after text after text. Thankfully, I was in a position where I had cable, which I enjoyed the back and forth conversation with Samter. But if I did not have cable and I had YouTube TV or something like that, then geez, I think there would have been some spoilers yesterday. And I believe there's a flag on Notre Dame. I think the defensive back got a little bit handsy. Yep, it's pass interference, so that's going to move those chains for a first down for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. For the Georgia Bulldogs. So Georgia's going to have it now with the new set of downs. It's going to be first down. Yeah, he was grabbing the outside of the jersey. So you get the pass interference flag there. So Notre Dame bails out Georgia here from going 3 and out to start the final game of the quarterfinals in the college football playoff. The winner of Georgia and Notre Dame is going to get Penn State. And you already had the matchup of Texas and Ohio State with how the games did play out the last 2 days. So Georgia has the football. It is 1st and 10 for the Bulldogs at their own 38. And they're going to be pinned back 3 or 4 yards here, as it was Xavier Watts who got in. All right, I can't do play-by-play, so I won't do play-by-play. Okay. No play-by-play. But that's what happens when you have to watch one of these games. And also, you know how many sites now I see? And like all these YouTube streams, they have guys that they wear headsets and they do play-by-play and they just react to it. So those guys could do play-by-play. But if I start doing play-by-play, I'll get a note from management, you can't do play-by-play. So who the heck knows? I'm surprised like the NFL or college football doesn't go after some of these people that just, and I have no problem with it. Ever you're going to make a living, It's not my issue, but we're told we can't do play-by-play when we're just reacting to what we're doing, and people do the same thing on YouTube, and, it's no big deal. So you're going to get another third down and long here. Did I see Carson Beck? I saw Carson Beck on the sideline. He declared for the draft. He wasn't with the team for a while. Like when we had Dan Jackson on a few weeks ago, he was getting surgery and all that stuff. I was surprised that he's even on the sideline. Well, like once you declare, I thought you were, and I know that, right, the injury, plays a factor, and he couldn't even have came back anyway. But I was a little surprised to see Carson Beck was on the sideline. Let's just see what happens here on 3rd and 9, and then we will take a timeout, as it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. And oh boy, that ball was out, and it was out of bounds, 3 yards, 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage. So a good start here for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Stu, you were 47% confident heading into this one. 47% confident that Notre Dame was going to win. Where are you at right now?
47.5.
Okay. Now, I will say this. Can I just tell you just how much of a bad person I could be from time to time?
Oh, boy.
It has nothing to do with you. I have a tweet saved in my drafts, and I am really hoping I could press send on this. Do you want to hear what that tweet is right now?
Sure.
It's a photo of Ryan Hickey in a Notre Dame quarter zip that he does own and he does wear. And it is a photo from many years ago. And if Notre Dame can beat Georgia, they go on to play Penn State. And the tweet reads this, and I really hope I can press send on this later. Breaking. Ryan_Hickey3 has entered the college football fan transfer portal and will be rooting for Notre Dame over Penn State. I can't believe Hot Take Hickey would abandon his alma mater like this. I'm hoping, really, really hoping that I could press send on that. And also, Hickey and I have a bet. If Penn State makes the national championship game, I have to do a show or a segment dressed up as the Nittany Lion. But whoever the school that Hickey's team loses to, if it's prior to the national championship game, Hickey has to dress up as their mascot. So either way, Georgia, Notre Dame, I'm rooting for Georgia and Notre Dame up against Penn State, whoever wins. But we could either get Hickey as a bulldog or Hickey as a leprechaun. And I just think that's another reason to root for Notre Dame. Imagine Hickey, after Penn State loses to Notre Dame, if let's say that happens in the next round and Notre Dame's up the national championship, he then just has to dress up as a leprechaun. That would be something. All righty, we'll take a break. We will do our final installment of a little Paper Shredder Thursday when we do return. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Notre Dame is finally going to get the football back. They didn't get the ball back until we just came back from commercial break. So on the first third down, they had a pass interference penalty called against them that didn't end up hurting them. And then it was 4th and 16 or 4th and 15. They took 2 penalties, and it was both running into the kicker. So you had 2 running into the kicker penalties right there. Now, it was not roughing. It was just running into the kicker, who was the punter. And it ended up still having to repunt the football. You said to punt the ball twice, or 3 times actually. And Notre Dame now has the football back. So 11:37 to go here in the first quarter. Riley Leonard will get onto the field right now, and we'll see if Notre Dame can lead a touchdown drive or at least get a field goal somehow. And Stu could actually be happy here for part of the show. All righty. We have 8 teams. I believe 8 teams. Let's see how many logos I have here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 teams left on a paper shredder Thursday. This is to win the Super Bowl. We originally started this, teams I was eliminating for the playoffs. Then when we narrowed down the group, I said we're going to pick 6 teams total. 6 teams total. They got a chance to win the Super Bowl. So I have to eliminate our final 2 today. Stu, give me my theme music. All righty. The Buffalo Bills. I think the Buffalo Bills obviously can win a Super Bowl. Now, they have defeated Kansas City 4 times in the regular season. They can't get the job done up against Kansas City in the postseason. The Bills are locked into the 2 seed. And you know what about the Buffalo Bills, Stu? I'm very nervous because the Patriots are playing the Bills this weekend. The Bills are going to use this pretty much as a bye because you don't have a bye in the NFL playoffs. So since they're locked into their number 2 seed, they could basically sit everyone this week that they want to, get a bye, without having the bye, and then they could be fully rested for the wild card matchup, the 2 up against the 7. So you know this, Stu, as a team that when Stu went on vacation, his football team is either 1 or 2 in the NFL draft. Now they're all the way down to 8, and you called it, my friend. You said they're going to win some games that they're not supposed to win at the end of the year. I'm now fearing what has happened to you will happen to me, that Drake May's going to finish off the season strong. I wanted Joe Milton to start, for crying out loud. And we were going and just rest Drake May. Don't let him get hurt in the final game of the year. Very happy with his rookie season. But I am concerned that the Patriots may actually do the unthinkable and take care of business up against Mitch Trubisky, where if they get the number 1 pick, they don't need a quarterback, so they could trade back a few spots and take one of these sucker teams that are going to move mountains to try to go get Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward. So, Stu, I'm a little concerned here that my team's going to try to start playing like the Raiders.
Can't do it. It's a disaster.
Yeah.
I was miserable for 2 Sundays in a row.
You shouldn't even take a vacation. It's not even an enjoyable vacation when your football team performs the way that they did. Even when you win, you lose when you're a Raiders fan. Alrighty, so the Buffalo Bills, long story short, I'm not shredding you. I think you can win the Super Bowl. Next up, the Baltimore Ravens. Derrick Henry has brought a super feeling to this team. I know they've not always had the best product in the NFL this year. Their defense is still a question mark, even though Kyle Van Noy is having an awesome season. Lamar Jackson, it's crazy to say this, he's playing as good as he ever has in the NFL, and that's a man that has won 2 MVPs already. So, Kansas City, right, everyone's telling me they're vulnerable, even though they're 1 loss on the season and the number 1 seed. If it's not Kansas City, I then think Baltimore and Buffalo, right, are the only 2 teams you could see get into a Super Bowl, so I will not shred the Baltimore Ravens. I got to shred 2 here. Next up, Green Bay. I'm sorry. The Green Bay Packers, I can't believe in them. This was a team that I thought heading into the season could take that next step. Got to the divisional round last year. Love makes the interception. But in every big game this year, whether it was the Lions twice, the Vikings twice, or if it was the Philadelphia Eagles to start the season, they haven't got a victory. So they're winning games, but they're not winning the big games. And that's problematic for the Green Bay Packers right now. So I can't trust them to go on a 3-game run here and get to the Super Bowl. They're a good team, but they're not a great team. And I just don't see the Green Bay Packers heading to the Super Bowl. So we say goodbye to them. The Philadelphia Eagles, led by head football coach Nick Sirianni. No one ever says that. You say, oh, the Philadelphia Eagles, led by Saquon Barkley, led by Jalen Hurts, led by A.J. Brown, led by Devontae Smith, maybe even led by that C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They're a team, even though they won't have the number 1 overall seed, that will be either Minnesota or it will be the Detroit Lions. Are locked into the number 2 seed. So you have a home playoff game, in the wild card round. If you win that one, you have a home playoff game in the divisional round. And then if you have to go on the road and win 1 game in Minnesota or in Detroit, you could get to the Super Bowl. And hey, if the 1 seed goes down and they stub their toe in divisional round weekend, you then have a home NFC championship game. The Eagles could be the most complete team in the NFL, and I am not going to shred them. Next up, the Detroit Lions. They could be limping into the postseason with how many injuries that they have. But they could still bite off your kneecaps, especially if they get a bye, can get a little bit rested up, get some of these guys back, and they get the number 1 overall seed. Now, we'll see who's going to win between the Lions and the Vikings coming up on Sunday Night Football on NBC, the final regular season game of the season. But, man, you win that game, you're the 1 seed. You lose, you're the 5 seed. And you're on the road wild card weekend. Either way, win or lose, I think the Lions, this has been a special year for them, and they could get to the Super Bowl. So I have to shred 1 more team, and it will not be the Minnesota Vikings. Who would have thought before the season started that the Minnesota Vikings could not only be the number 1 seed in the NFC, but could be a Super Bowl team? Kevin O'Connell, Brian Flores, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. Oh, don't forget about that Sammy Darnold. Sammy Slinging Darnold. I don't even need to say Sam Darnold anymore. The man that used to be known for getting mono and seeing ghosts. Because what Sam Darnold this year has done is absolutely spectacular. And I usually don't take the cheese with the Vikings, because usually taking the bait and then the mousetrap will slam right on you. I think this Minnesota team can get to the Super Bowl this year. All righty. I have 2 teams left, and I have to shred one. The Rams are the team that have jumped up. It will not be the Rams, or will it be the Chargers? Will it be the Chiefs? Will it be the Chiefs? Will it be the Rams? I go Chiefs and Chargers there when I messed it up when I said that? Yes, I did. All right, anyway. Teams are the Rams and the Chiefs. Rams or the Chiefs. I do have a future Super Bowl ticket on the Rams, but I'm not shredding the Chiefs. It's going to be the LA Rams. We shred them. And that was my Super Bowl pick before the season started. So if the Rams end up getting to the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl, I would be like, oh, I had the take that I had to win them all, and I have a future on them to get out of the NFC. But I just put them in the paper shredder. So we did this exercise starting about 2 months ago, and we were going to originally shred all the teams that got to couldn't make the playoffs. And then once we got down to our teams that we thought could only make the playoffs, it was, hey, who could get to the Super Bowl? And I said we were only going to pick 6. 3 from the AFC, 3 from the NFC. The 3 from the AFC are the Bills, the Ravens, and the Kansas City Chiefs. The 3 from the NFC are the Lions, the Eagles, and the Minnesota Vikings. Now, Stu, let me just ask you this. If there's one team that we shredded in the AFC, so a team that is not the Chiefs, the Ravens, or the Bills that you could see getting to the Super Bowl, who would that team be? Just wondering from the AFC.
That's tough. I think I would go Chargers just because of the coach and maybe Herbert gets hot, good defense, but I don't feel confident about that.
Because I look at it, the Steelers, they're not going to a Super Bowl. The Broncos still have to make the playoffs. No, the Texans, they're like the Packers, except worse. They can't win a big game, and they're really injured. I would say you're right. It's the Chargers. Now, if the Bengals get in, that could change the conversation, but I don't buy that the Bengals are getting in. Now, in the NFC, we said Eagles, Vikings, Lions. If you had to pick one team in the NFC that's not one of those 3 to get to the Super Bowl, who would that be?
I think I go with the Rams.
Yeah, I would as well. So, all righty. Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. We will take a break. I picked 3 storylines to monitor in the NFL for 2025. I said, after my 3, Stu, give me 3 as well. So we'll get to those 3 storylines when we come on back. And also, the Philadelphia Eagles are not letting Saquon try to rush to that rushing title and break Eric Dickerson's record. Is that the right decision? We'll get into that when we return coming up in a few moments. Georgia has the football facing a 3rd and 7. No score between Notre Dame and Georgia. And sorry, Stu, you can move the chains. Georgia is at midfield, and they got the first down. It's actually, I feel bad having to sit here and watch Stu's emotions. Because there was one play earlier where the player stepped out of bounds, but he was running down the sideline, and Stu looked as if someone just stole one of his cats. He looked mortified. He looked heartbroken. So I'm seeing the real emotions of the always emotional Stuart Kovacs today as we watch his Notre Dame Fighting Irish try to punch their ticket to be one of the 4 teams standing. But if they lose, it's same old Notre Dame. And it's another first down for Georgia. Oh, boy. Come on, Notre Dame. Get your head out of the sand and pick it up. Let's get it going. Notre Dame, Georgia, 7-11 remaining. Ack will continue to give you updates on this one and all the other happenings around the sports world. Here's the Ack Band, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
This report is brought to you by PXG Golf. For high-quality, high-performance golf clubs, apparel that delivers style and comfort, premium golf balls, award-winning gloves, and more. Make it a PXG holiday for the golfer in your life. Find the PXG store near you at pxg.com. Notre Dame and Georgia in the Sugar Bowl this afternoon. Goes on after yesterday's postponement and the tragedy that struck New Orleans on New Year's Day. They are midway through the first quarter and scoreless as Gunnar Stockton off to a good start. 3 for 3 for 24 yards passing, and he has the Bulldogs on the move in Notre Dame territory. Meanwhile, the Fighting Irish with a sloppy start with 4 penalties in the first 5 minutes. The Pro Bowl rosters were announced today. 9 Ravens lead the AFC roster, which does not include Patrick Mahomes. The NFC features 7 Lions, 6 Eagles, along with rookie Jaden Daniels. Jared Verse, also of the Rams, on the roster. The Pistons' Jaden Ivey reportedly suffered a broken fibula last night in a freak collision with Magic guard Cole Anthony and is expected to miss most of the remainder of the regular season. I'm Rich Hacker.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on X. Our handle is INF Sports Network. That's INF Sports Network on X.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
All righty, this is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. It looked like Georgia was going to set the tone to this game. They were driving. They were matriculating the ball down the field, and then Notre Dame popped out that football, forced a fumble, and the Irish have recovered. So Notre Dame's going to take over. I think it was like somewhere around their own 20 or 25-yard line in that range before they cut to commercial break. So Notre Dame survived an early scare. Now we'll see if they could go break this stalemate so far, 0-0, and put some points up on the board. So we'll keep you up to date on that. Winner is going to get Penn State. I'm going to try a bunch of new things, I think, this year in 2025. Or at least you always say that at the beginning of the year. So the first new thing I'm trying. So at the end of the year, I went to fish, which people are like, oh, they've been around forever. You're late to the party. All right. I went to fish. It was fun. Had a good time. Enjoyed myself. This Saturday night, I'm going to Madison Square Garden. Not a new activity for me. But what I'm seeing at Madison Square Garden, I have never seen in person before. I'm going to this bull riding event at Madison Square Garden I was invited to. John Crimber, who's like the phenom right now in bull riding. He's a 19-year-old sensation. He's going to join us actually in studio coming up at 5:20 p.m. Eastern Time, 2:20 p.m. Pacific today. But I have no clue what to expect. No clue what to expect whatsoever, so I'm looking forward to that on Saturday. Stu, I'm going to go on a limb here. I'm going to assume you've never been to a bull riding event, right?
Have not.
Yeah.
Sounds interesting, though.
Yeah, I can't. I just like, I enjoy going to things that I have no clue what to expect, and I have no expectation, and then just going to be curious to see what I'm going to think about when I'm walking out of this bull riding event. So looking forward to that coming up on Saturday night. I asked you, Stu, before the show. I said I'm going to give you 3 things in 2025 that I want to monitor and what we could potentially get the answers about. 3 storylines in 2025 in the NFL. I'll give you my 3. And I gave you my 3 to start, so then you're going to give me 3 different ones just so people understand it. So in no order, Sam Darnold. Is he going to be back with the Minnesota Vikings? I think is a fascinating topic. If he is back with the Minnesota Vikings, why is he back with the Minnesota Vikings? Is it because of the really great regular season this year, or is it because he won the Minnesota Vikings a Super Bowl? And if he's not, then what the heck's going to happen with J.J. McCarthy, and what team is Sam Darnold going to be on? So storyline of will Sam Darnold be back with the Minnesota Vikings, I think is a fascinating one for the year of 2025 in the NFL. The next one, will the Chiefs three-peat? The Chiefs are the number 1 seed. We've never seen a team win back-to-back-to-back Super Bowls. We know Tom Brady has 7 Super Bowl championships. We know Patrick Mahomes has 3 right now. Brady beat Mahomes twice in the postseason, 1 in a Super Bowl, 1 in an AFC championship game. There's not a lot of ways for Mahomes, in my opinion, to be viewed as a better quarterback and the greatest quarterback of all time, unless if he does 2 things. 1, gets more Super Bowls than Tom Brady, or gets an equal amount and then has a tiebreaker, or maybe 1 fewer and then has something that Brady doesn't. So Brady had an undefeated regular season, not an undefeated season. That would have been a great trump card for Brady. Brady has won back-to-back Super Bowls. Mahomes has won back-to-back Super Bowls. So since Brady has defeated Mahomes twice in the playoffs, that's a trump card that Brady will always have over Mahomes. If Mahomes could win back-to-back-to-back, that's a trump card not only that he has on Tom Brady, but all the quarterbacks in the history of the Super Bowl era. So will the Chiefs three-peat this year? We know they're locked into the number 1 seed. They'll have to win 2 games for us to be going back to a Super Bowl and for us to be going to New Orleans this year at Radio Row and having to talk about the Chiefs once again in another Super Bowl. Then the last storyline, and I think it's been one of the biggest storylines the last 3-4 years in the NFL world. What the heck is going to happen with Aaron Rodgers this offseason? Is he coming back to the Jets? Is he going to retire? Or is he going to his 3rd NFL team? So to me, those are three storylines I'm following for 2025 in the NFL. Will Sam Darnold be back in Minnesota? Will the Chiefs three-peat? And will Aaron Rodgers be back in the NFL? And if so, where next year? Stu, give me your three. Let's go one by one.
Okay, like your Chiefs one, my first two we'll know in the next, 3, 4, 5 weeks here.
Okay.
Based off of how this season ends. But my first one is, can Josh Allen put the Bills on his back, get over the hump, beat the Chiefs if they face each other, and win the Super Bowl? Because this is, for him, such a great opportunity because the Chiefs this year, as good as they are, they've won all those one-possession games. I think this is the year that this might be their best chance to beat them.
And I hope it does happen for this one reason. So the Bills and the Chiefs, it's weird. I think when you look at the rivalry more so in national talking points, we talk more about when the Bengals play the Chiefs. Why? Because the Bengals have defeated the Chiefs before in the regular season, and even though they split in AFC championship games, we did see the Cincinnati Bengals take down the Chiefs once in the postseason. The Buffalo Bills, and it's probably the most uncovered thing when talking about this, they have defeated the Chiefs now 4 straight times in the regular season. So if you can't get the job done in the regular, or if you get the job done in the regular season, which they did this year, and you can't get it done in the postseason once again, it's kind of going to be how we're talking about Notre Dame today, where it's, hey, Notre Dame, this is their time. If they can't do it now, why should I ever believe in them again? It's going to be the same thing with the Bills, where if they've once again defeated the Chiefs in the regular season, Josh Allen's having an MVP season. If you can't get it done this year, I'm not saying it can never happen, but why should I believe it? And Buffalo, for a team that entered this year where it was like, oh, we don't even know if they're going to win the AFC East. I picked them to win the AFC East, but it wasn't a foregone conclusion, and people expected the Bills to fall back this year. They have been really damn good this year, and they are one of the top Super Bowl contenders in the NFL, so it's clearly Super Bowl or bust for them. So that's a good one. What's your next one?
Okay, my next one is, will Lamar Jackson, now with Derrick Henry, will he show up in the playoffs? Now, I'm not expecting him to win the Super Bowl. They might be the third best team in the AFC. They have 5 losses, but he's got to show something in the playoffs. He's got to have a close game, have a moment, lead them farther than maybe people are expecting him to. So he's had a lot of bad playoff performances. Not all his fault, but some are. And he's the quarterback, so he's going to get blamed.
And if this goes the way that we expected for the Ravens to lock up the 3 seed, and the Bills have already locked into the 2 seed, assuming they get the job done wild card weekend, and there's no funky business on wild card weekend. Like you don't see the Broncos beat the Bills or, we could get a Harbaugh Bowl again. Or the Chargers beat the Raven. Like something like that. You get the point. That means then, for Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, they would meet again in the postseason, right? They met that one time when Lamar got knocked out of the game. Before he got knocked out of the game, he threw the pick 6 to Taron Johnson. Right, 100 and something yard return. I think 102 or something like that. But you would get that moment of exhale for either Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson in the divisional round. And that would be a great moment for either of those quarterbacks to win. But then in all likelihood, if no funny business happens, you don't have to go to Kansas City the following week to go put you 60 minutes away or 60 minutes away from going to Super Bowl. And if you win that, who knows who you get in the NFC. So the road for both Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, if it is their year this year, they could really put some narratives down and really lay those narratives to rest. But yeah, just like Lamar and Josh, it's the same question, but it's, okay, can you get the job done? And it's funny with Lamar, when he couldn't get the job done last year with the number 1 seed, and he played, one good half up against the Texans, and then the whole offense was a complete no-show up against Kansas City. A lot of us were like, hey, we're never going to believe in the Ravens again. And you have moments this year where people are believing in the Baltimore Ravens. So they played Kansas City this year. They lost. Needed likely to get that other foot down, and they beat the Bills earlier this year as well. All right, final one.
All right, my last one is, where will Mike Vrabel and Ben Johnson be coaching next season? Obviously, with Belichick now no longer in the mix, I think these are the 2 premier candidates and can kind of shape the league for the next 5 to 7 years based off where these guys go.
So I think this is when you were out, Stu. I gave my first prediction of the hiring cycle, where I went through the entire list of jobs that I think are going to be open, and I made predictions. I'm going to do this again tomorrow because I've already had some changes to this list. But the initial list was Bears Ben Johnson. I'm telling you tomorrow that's going to change. Raiders, Mike Vrabel. Jaguars, Pete Carroll. That's going to change. And I forget which coaches I changed or not. Jets, I had Joe Brady. Giants, Liam Cohen. Saints, Aaron Glenn. So I will change this list tomorrow. Over the weekend, over the last 2 days. It's always weird when you have a holiday in the middle of the week and then you come on back and you still got to work. I keep on thinking that I've been out for 7 days. I was only out for 2 days, for crying out loud. But I'm going to come up with a new list tomorrow, and we'll do another installment of that. The final reveal before we actually get Black Monday in the NFL, because that comes your way on Monday as well, where we'll get some final answers here on who's going to stay and who's going to go. We already know that the Jet job is open. We already know the Saints job is open, and we already know the Bears job is open as well. So, yeah, where's Vrabel and Johnson going to go? That's a big one. All righty, let me quickly play you Nick Sirianni on sitting Saquon with a chance to break Eric Dickerson's rushing record.
Obviously, a lot plays into it. Obviously, it's a very special record that's been standing for a very long time by a great player. It's a team record. It's a team record that everybody's involved in. So you weigh in all those things, but at the end of the day, you just try to do what's best for the team.
And also, let's hear from Saquon Barkley on sitting Week 18 with the rushing record only 100 yards away.
It was an opportunity to implant my name in football history. May never get another opportunity like that again. So I'm down, but at the end of the day, I don't care for putting the team at risk. He's the head coach for a reason. He makes the decisions, and whatever decision he wanted to make, I let him know if you want me to play, I'm going to go out there and make sure I get it. And if we don't, I'm okay with that too.
Saquon said all the right things there, but you could tell he wants to play. You could tell he wants to go for this record. And I don't fault him for thinking that. I don't think you could make a wrong decision here. I could understand why you would go for it. If I was Nick Sirianni, I think he could rest some guys, and then you're not putting the best protection around Saquon. I personally would go for the record. That would be me. But in a year where a lot of us have crushed Nick Sirianni, I'm not going to crush him for doing what's in the best interest of the team and trying to rest everyone to go get a Super Bowl. And it's kind of crazy. The Eagles are locked into the 2 seed. If this was the old format where you had the 1 and the 2 both getting buys, I think they would have put Saquon Barkley on the field this weekend. Because it's then, and the Chiefs are doing this right now where they're going to rest their guys this week. Do you really want 2 weeks off before your first playoff game? So the Eagles are going to use Week 18 for the most part as a bye since they didn't get the bye, since only one team in the AFC and NFC can get the bye. And the Eagles will use that in Week 18, and Saquon is a big enough player where you do want to rest him. But, man, you have fewer carries. I know people say, oh, well, Eric Dickerson did it in fewer games. Yeah, but fewer carries for Saquon Barkley. And that's got to be tough when you're 100 yards away to not go for it. But I understand the decision by Nick Sirianni. Personally, as a selfish football fan, I would have loved to have seen him put Saquon Barkley out there. And I know if he gets hurt, then everyone would be ripping Nick Sirianni to shreds. All right, we'll take a break. There is a surprise speculation report out there about who could be the next coach of the Bears. And we will also get into some of the college football playoff action as well, as Georgia is on the move.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Alrighty, hour number 3 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. So a listener to the program, Greg Ludwig, he reached out to me. He goes, hey, I want to send you a bunch of potato chips. He goes, what's the address to the radio station? We'd love to send you and the guys some goodies. So I said, all right, great. Yeah, here's the address. Send me the chips. I have now 15 full bags of potato chips in a box that Greg sent, which is very nice. So I put them out on my desk in the newsroom. And our boss, David Marinick, is walking by. And I keep on seeing Dave in like the last hour. He's coming in and out of the studio, I'm like, what the heck is he doing? And during the break, he finally comes up to me, goes, hey, those potato chips, like, I'm starving. I need something. Can I take a bag? And I'm like, sure. I go ahead. I got 15 bags, but they're all different flavors. And I didn't really care, right? There's 15 bags. I'm not going to be able to take home all 15. I'll hand them out to people around here. But there's different flavors. And there's some flavors that you'll be like, your typical flavor. There's a barbecue chip, right? That's a typical potato chip. Then there's like biscuits and gravy or like a pepperoni chip. So I wonder what brand of chip David Meredith did take. Because if our boss took the barbecue chips, I'm going to be very annoyed. If he took like the generic kind of chips that I will probably bring with me, fine. But if he ends up opening the pepperoni chips, I'll be okay with that because I didn't know how many pepperoni chips I was going to put down, if I'm just being honest. So I saw Sanford scurried into the newsroom. That means he's probably already lining up what chips he's going to take for himself before I even get to fully investigate all the potato chips. But I do
Sounds
wonder.
About right.
Yeah. I don't know if Stu would have said that if Sanford walked back in about 5 seconds. But I do wonder what potato chips our boss David Meredith did take. All right, Georgia's up 3-0. So Notre Dame forced that fumble. They couldn't do anything with it. Georgia then got the ball. They moved the ball down the field, and they ended up getting a field goal. Riley Leonard just ran for a first down. So Riley Leonard has the ball, and they are at their own 38-yard line. And we're already in the second quarter here. Wow. I know this game started a few minutes after 4 o'clock, but it does not feel like this game has been on for an hour. 11:20 left in the second quarter. I haven't had to do this in a while, Stu. Like, I used to do an 8-hour show watching all the football games and telling you about them. When I was in the 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern time slot, games on all the time. I have not had a big game to this magnitude on while having to be on the air. And I get it. There's, I shouldn't be complaining about it, especially with everything that has gone on in our country in the last 24 to 48 hours. But geez, I forget how much it sucked when you have a big game on and you have to watch it. There are times, Stu, where I get home and I will walk home from work, right, make myself dinner, sit down, watch a show, and I'll look up at the clock and go, there's still 2 hours left if I was still doing 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern time, which I don't think you realize it in the moment when you're doing it. When I was doing the show from 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern time, I never felt, oh, wow, it's so late and I'm still here. But then when you're on the outside of it, you go, wow, it's a long time from 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern time, and those hours are later at night. Now, it's not like 10 to 2 or 2 to 6, which I've done as well. But you kind of realize that on the outside world when you're not in that 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern time, zone. Riley Leonard just ran for a first down. All right, here come the Irish. They're at Georgia's 29, 1st and 10 with under 10 minutes to go here in the first half. Georgia is the team that did strike first. They are up 3-0 in this one. So let me get to two things. I will get to a rumor that is out there right now, and then I'll get to our poll question. So here is from JPA Football. That's one of those aggregators, which whenever they aggregate me, they always tag the wrong Zach Gelb. So we're giving them credit, but learn how to tag the right Zach Gelb. Rumors. Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy could set his sights on the Chicago Bears head coaching job if he does not remain in Dallas next season, per Jeremy Fowler of ESPN. So Mike McCarthy is a good coach. I think Mike McCarthy gets clowned a lot, and he's a better coach than what people give him credit for a guy that has won a Super Bowl. But Mike McCarthy could have his sights set on the Chicago Bears. It takes two to tango. It doesn't mean that the Bears are going to be necessarily interested in Mike McCarthy. And also, Mike McCarthy is going to have to become available, which I don't know if Mike McCarthy is going to become available, to be clear. So I'm trying to envision the Bears' next head coach. And I just don't see it being Mike McCarthy. Now, Stu, if I was to ask you right now, if you had to take one guess on who the next Bears coach is going to be, who do you think would be the most obvious name that you're going to guess right now?
I'd say Ben Johnson still.
And for some reason, I said the same thing last week when I put out my first prediction for who was going to get the Bears job. I said Ben Johnson, right? It's got to happen. And I think Vrabel is interested in Chicago. I think Vrabel's going to go elsewhere, though. And I'm really feeling like Vrabel's going to go to the Raiders if they get rid of Antonio Pierce with that Tom Brady connection. But for some reason with Ben Johnson, he just is so unpredictable. Last year, we all thought he was going to the Commanders. It was a foregone conclusion. It was sealed, signed, delivered. He was going to the Washington Commanders, who had the second overall pick, new ownership, a new GM, right? It was a lock that he was going to the Commanders. And then he pulled his name out of the running. And he said, nope, I'm not going to the Commanders. Now, it's worked out for the Commanders. They still got Jaden Daniels. Adam Peters done a good job in year one. And Dan Quinn could be the coach of the year in the NFL. So it's not as if it didn't work for the Commanders. And also, it didn't really blow up in the face of Ben Johnson. Because, yes, you could say, oh, if you're Ben Johnson, you knew you could be the coach of the Commanders now with Jaden Daniels. Yeah, there could be a little remorse from his part. But he's still the top name on this market. And I just have a feeling whatever we expect Ben Johnson to do, he's going to be the unexpected. And since everyone's saying, or a lot of people are saying, hey, Ben Johnson to the Bears, Ben Johnson to the Bears, Ben Johnson to the Bears, I'm starting to think the Bears are going to give us, I'm going to say a funky name. Like, it will be a name that you know of. I'm not going to say it's going to be like, oh my goodness gracious, how did this guy get a head coaching job? But for the Bears, when Belichick is no longer on the board, I got to kind of think that you either have to get Mike Vrabel or Ben Johnson, or there's going to be questions. I guess if you got Pete Carroll, which I do not think is going to be the next head coach of the Bears, people could understand that because Pete Carroll is going to be a Hall of Fame coach. But if you don't walk away with Pete Carroll, Ben Johnson, or Mike Vrabel, I do believe the Bears are going to get a lot of criticism. And when you look at the Bears, they just always get it wrong. So for me to just say without a doubt that, yes, hey, they're going to be getting Ben Johnson, I just had a feeling the last 3 days or 4 days that it's going to be somebody else. And oh my goodness gracious. You know what? I've never been more disappointed in our boss, David Mayernick. And I love the put Mayernick, get Mayernick in here. You know, you give a mouse a cookie and he wants a glass of milk. You know, I thought David Mayernick, there's a lot of selfish people around here for crying out loud. Dave Mayernick is the antithesis of a selfish person. So I get this big box of potato chips delivered to me. There's 15,000 flavors. The only flavor that I was like, oh, that's the one I'm definitely going to take home is the barbecue. So politely, you come up to me and you go, hey, I'm kind of hungry. I want some potato chips. And you take the barbecue?
I got to tell you, Zach, and I am not going to exonerate myself from this, but I did ask for the advice of somebody in the newsroom about which one I should take. Now, I will give you one guess.
Well, I know who it was. Hickey. He's the only one in the newsroom for crying out loud. and Hickey has the palate of a 4-year-old. Hickey has the palate of a 4-year-old, so it's like a biscuit and gravy flavor. There's a pepperoni. Like Hickey's, if you say anything that is out of, a little bit different, which is ordinary in a food flavor, Hickey's the same person I went to the Super Bowl with him. I had to chase him around the restaurant when I wanted to try escargot for crying out loud, and he spilled water all over the table. So, of course, he's going to say barbecue.
Now, I will say this, Zach. I only had a handful of them. Now, my grubby hand was in there, but it was clean and sterilized before. So, again, I do have at least 80% of the bag here for your enjoyment.
Okay. Well, I will just say this. That will be 3 extra off days that I get.
Consider it done.
That was the easiest negotiations I've ever had with anyone in this company. There he is, the great David Mayernick. He came running up to the window. I thought he was taunting me for a second. He came running up to the window with the bag of barbecue chips. And I'm like, oh, maybe they're not open. And then I see it wide open. So you know what? That's on me. Because you can't give anyone the benefit of the doubt around here. Here I am being a kind person to start 2025. I got a gift. I have not been even able to open one of the bags of potato chips yet. And Mayernick puts his hands right in that box of potato chips and takes the barbecue flavored. And then goes, oh, my grubby hands, a.k.a., he's saying how his hands are all clean, blah, blah, blah. That means his disgusting hands that have probably been covering his nose all day as he blows his nose are now in the barbecue potato chips. Jeez. Folks, this is what I have to work with around here. I'm really annoyed. And of course, he didn't take the biscuit and gravy flavor. You think the biscuit and gravy flavor is any good, by the way? And potato chips? Still, you know.
I would try it, but
people have a perception of you in the YouTube chat. You'd probably have had some biscuit and gravy.
Yeah,
potato
I think
chips.
I don't know. I would try them. I'm not 100% sure how good they'd be. I think they'd be okay.
Okay.
It's not that off the wall. It's not like some like fruity flavor or something.
And I just got like pesto hummus too. So I was like, oh, I have all these chips here. You know, barbecue's good. There was like a little kettle corn that they sent too. I don't think there was any plain chips. But Marinick takes the barbecue chips right out of the gate. All right, Notre Dame has hit a field goal, so it is 3-3, Notre Dame and Georgia. Georgia, though, just had a 2nd and 19, and they converted it. I'll give you the early read here on Gunnar Stockton. He looks confident. He looks poised. He looks confident. Dan Jackson said it to us, that, you know, he's got that dog in him. And Mike Sanford said to us, not Mike Samter, Mike Sanford, the former football coach, but Sanford said to us that he is Stetson Bennett except with actual talent. And Carson Beck, this is not a good, you know, hey, it's 3-3 right now. You haven't even scored a touchdown yet, so let's not get delirious. But if Stockton walks in, or Gunnar Stockton, and he gets this victory over Notre Dame, and let's say he plays really well and he looks poised right now, yes, it's going to be a bad look for Notre Dame, even though they're going up against Georgia, but it's really going to be a bad look for Carson Beck. Because that offense has been up and down all throughout the year with Carson Beck at quarterback. Okay, let me update you on the poll question. Do you take Ohio State or the field to win the national championship? The field's at 51.6%. Ohio State's at 48.4%. So if you're not taking Ohio State, who do you take in the field? I would imagine that if we could do a team-by-team breakdown on this poll question, it's a lot of people thinking, oh, Georgia's going to win this game, and they'll still take Georgia. I don't think Texas will beat Ohio State. And also, you look at Penn State. Penn State, you know what? I think in terms of national perception, I still got to see it up against a great team. And you can only play who you play. You played Boise State and you played SMU. But even Nick Saban today, I saw was on ESPN, praising and saying, hey, I wasn't a believer at Alabama in Penn State first, and now I am. But you look at Penn State, and we'll see what happens with the health of Abdul Carter. I got to imagine he's going to give it a go in this game. But you look at Warren, who's a stud. You got Drew Aller, who has been up and down through his career, but he has the potential. You got 2 good running backs there, and you got a solid defense. Maybe some people are optimistic that this is going to be the year for Penn State. But I would imagine that if you're looking at the field, even though they still have to win this game today, most people would then say it's Georgia if you're giving me a field answer. But with what I've seen from Ohio State, you know, they're the most talented team in the country. It was, can they survive that atrocity that did occur, which I loved it, by the way, up against Michigan. But, from an unbiased perspective, that was a joke that Ohio State couldn't win that game. And ever since then, they smothered, I know everyone's knocking the SEC. They smothered a good Tennessee team, not a great Tennessee team, but smothered a good Tennessee team. And then Oregon's the best team in the country, right, heading into the college football playoff. Haven't lost this year, won the Big Ten, undefeated. And they not only beat Oregon, they dragged them up and down the field, make them beg for mercy. And at halftime, we didn't even need to watch the second half. There was no reason to watch the second half of that game. So I'm still saying that Ohio State, I would have never said it going into this playoff just because I thought that they were mentally cooked and mentally fried for what happened with Michigan. But after what I saw against Tennessee, it's like, they could win a national championship. And then you're really double down on that take. Not only can they will win the national championship with what we did see up against Oregon. So I'm taking Ohio State now, even though it's funny. Last time I've asked this team or the field, they go, I'm not usually someone that is going to take one team over the field. Well, I did it with Oregon to win the national championship. And with Ohio State now, I will take Ohio State compared to the field of what's remaining with Texas, Penn State, and then whoever wins here between Notre Dame and Georgia. 2nd and 2, it's now going to be 3rd and short. I think it's going to be right back at the line of scrimmage, maybe lost a yard. It's either going to be 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 3, as Notre Dame is now trying to get off the field. Georgia does have the football. It's a quick-moving game so far. 6:15 here left in the first half. I don't know if it's actually a quick game or if it just feels like a quick game because we're watching the game and doing a radio show. But this is kind of territory where you'll see if Georgia doesn't get it here, if they'll still like to go for it because they're on their own 45-yard line. So let's just see what transpires here. And then we will take a break, and we will get to one of the phenoms in the bull riding world, John Crimber, who's going to join us in studio. 3rd and 3, Gunnar Stockton, right over the middle, but that's incomplete. Broken up by the Notre Dame secondary. I'm going to say they're going to punt here. They could line up to go for it, try to get Notre Dame jump off sides, but with how defensive this game looks so far and low scoring, I think this is you flip the field position here and you pin them deep. But I can understand if they like to go for it. But at 3-3 with 5:47 to go, yep, Georgia's going to run out the punter. So as long as Notre Dame doesn't run into the punter here, which they've already done twice and it did not kill them, then Notre Dame, as they could field this punt cleanly and not run into the punter, they're going to be getting the football back with 5:47 to go in the first half. John Crimber is going to join us next in studio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, for the first time ever, and it's a new year, 2025, I'm going to go to something this weekend that I've never been before, and that is the PBR Monster Energy Buck-Off at Madison Square Garden presented by Ariat. I've never been to a bull riding event. I have no clue what to expect, but I can't wait to do so. And you get tickets all throughout the weekend. It's Friday through Sunday at Ticketmaster.com. And John Crimber now joins us in studio, and he's hailed as a generational talent who has lived up to the hype as the most exciting young bull riding prospect to emerge in recent history. So, John, I know you've been to New York City before, and you've performed here before, but we appreciate you coming on in studio.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
And I appreciate, by the way, the hat that you guys brought
There
in.
you go. Looks good.
You know, I got to pull it up a little bit. But the hat looks good. I have my own hat, actually, that I brought in, but you guys bring me a nice official one. I don't usually own a hat like this.
Yes, sir.
But my dad once, he had to go to some gala, and then he wore it to a wedding on the East Coast, and everyone knew when you're in an East Coast wedding,
yes, sir.
right, the guy that walks in a cowboy hat. So
yeah, there you go. It looks good, though.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I try to look the part from time to time. So
yes, sir.
What can I expect? You're the phenom. You're the generational talent. You're only 19. I've seen all your videos on social media, Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. When I walk into this building on Saturday night, Madison Square Garden, I've been there countless times. What can I expect at an event like this?
You're going to expect probably, like top 35 best bull riders in the world. It's going to be lots of emotions. It's going to be it's going to be either really bad, really good sometimes. It's just mix of emotions, but it's going to be a thrill. It's an adrenaline rush, and it's going to be a good time for sure.
So take me through your journey. I know this is kind of the family business for you with with your dad kind of getting you involved at such a young age, but you took interest in this when you were 5 years old. How did that all come about?
My dad, he's always rode bulls. He's a professional bull rider. He's made the PBR World Finals 10 times. And growing up, I just kind of looked up to him and wanted to be just like him and be a bull rider. So growing up, I was 3 years old when I got on my first sheep, and then 5, I got on my first bull, and just went on from there. It's something I've always wanted to do. I don't think I've ever thought in my mind I want to be something different than a bull rider. So
wow, so 5 years old, you got up on the bull for the first time.
Yes, sir.
I'll see like a skunk in the Poconos, and I'll be freaking out. Were you ever afraid of the bull?
I mean, it's not. I don't think it's scared. I think it's just you're just excited, butterflies, and you're just anxious to get down there and do your job.
So there's one thing, right, when you're 5 or like 6. Like when I was 5 or 6, I said I wanted to be a baseball player. Then I couldn't hit a curveball. I know that's not going to happen. So eventually I said, I want to be a radio host, and I ended up being what I think is somewhat good at this. For you, when did you realize, okay, this is not only something that I want to do, but man, not only am I good at it, but I could do this professionally?
I mean, I always knew that I wanted to be a bull rider, but when I first kind of was like, all right, maybe this is what I'm going to be, probably like 12 and 10 years old around there. 2015 probably. I don't even know how old I was, but 2015. That was when I was like, okay, this is what I want to be. Well, I'm going to have to work at it every day to be the best I can be. So
kind of how does, because, right, you're a generational talent.
Yes, sir.
And we've talked to a lot of college athletes, right, for the NFL draft, NBA draft, that end up living up to the hype. Some people don't. For you, because you're at still such a young age of only 19, is it surreal how quickly stardom has come your way and how successful you've been at this?
it kind of all came really fast. Just 19 years old and won the MVP and all that stuff. Second in the world. It opened my eyes just a little bit. Then I was like, all right, I'm pretty all right at this. I'm not too bad. So it's something that you kind of have to not really get it too much in your head, because I try to be a humble guy. I try to be humble as it can be, because it could all come and go quick, fast, and in a hurry. So you never know what the day of tomorrow is going to bring. So I just try to live it day by day, and I enjoy every moment of it.
Now, obviously, injuries can occur when you're participating in a sport like this, in bull riding. As John Crimber is in studio with us once again, Ticketmaster.com. You can check out PBR Monster Energy Buck-Off at Madison Square Garden, presented by Ariat this weekend. I'll be in attendance on Saturday evening. But for you, I was seeing some of the videos of the eye socket injury.
Yes, sir.
And you've talked about that very openly. Just kind of recall that moment and what it did for your career.
I was 17. I was fixing to turn 18 and start my professional career. And I went to some bull riding, and I just got whooped down. And this bull hit me with this horn right in my eye. And I thought I was blind first. And then, I got up, went, took a picture. My dad wasn't there. I was by myself. And I sent him a picture. He's like, oh, you probably need a couple stitches. You'll be all right. I was like, okay. I thought my eye was gone, but he was like, just sounded so simple. I was like, hey, all right, it's good. Went to the hospital, and the doctor said my eye socket was broke. There was no bone in there, like it was completely gone. It was about a couple inches away from my brain, actually, like the break and stuff. So it was pretty bad deal. And so I actually had state finals the next weekend, high school state finals, and I had a ride there. So I told the doctor, I said, look, could it get worse? He's like, oh, I mean, you can ride it. Nothing's going to happen to it because there's no bone there to break. So, okay. Well, I got on bulls that week, and then next week I got surgery.
That week you got back on?
Yes, sir.
And there was no fear of what could happen?
There's no fear. It was a lot of pain, though. I had to take pills every day, every hour I was taking something because it hurt really bad, but it's part of it.
Now, you talk about finals, so you were in high school.
Yes, sir.
So when you're starting to get some of this publicity, people starting to say, oh, you got to watch this John Crimber guy. He's going to be really damn good, family lineage and all that stuff. What was high school like for you?
I really wasn't there too often. I was always gone. But, I played football and stuff, and I enjoyed playing football. But it was all my friends were like they just kind of looked at me differently. I don't know. I didn't like it. I was like, man, I'm just a normal kid just out here just riding bulls. That's what I was doing. And
because I'm only 30, and when I was in college, right, social media was a thing.
Yes, sir.
But now everywhere you go, people are taking pictures.
Oh, yeah.
They're recording. They're always trying to get one of those gotcha moments anything, for people to go viral.
Yes, sir.
Like, you probably have taken millions of selfies at this point of life.
Yeah.
So it's like you're a star when you're in high school.
Yes, just a little bit. I mean, I walk around and people would ask me for autographs, or I would just go to hang out in Fort Worth. That's right by my town. And people would just come up to me like, hey, you John Crimber? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, can I get a picture? I'm like, what? No, I mean, it's cool. I mean, I just weird, I just want to be out there having a good time, but people just notice you, and it kind of makes me feel good about myself sometimes.
Is that a little bit difficult? Because I'm sure there's some times where you just want to be a kid or a young adult, and you're 19 and you're smacked right into the public eye, and everyone expects you to always be on it at 100 each and every day.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard sometimes because everywhere I go, they'll notice you and they'll know who you are, and so you kind of just got to watch what you're doing, because like you said, people are always wanting to see, trying to get a gotcha moment. So I just try to go out there and be myself, but watch what I'm doing sometimes also.
Yeah, so John Crimber here with us. I'm not going to BS you here. I'm not going to sit here and try to be an expert in this stuff like some other talk show hosts would. I know football, I know baseball, I know basketball, I know hockey. What is the next step for you and your journey? And obviously you've accomplished so much. I can read all the accolades and all that. But how do you kind of see the next few years playing on out for you?
I just want to go out there and be the best bull rider in the world, and that's by getting the world title. Last year was my first year, and I got second. I was pretty close to winning it, so kind of opened my eyes a little bit on how bad I wanted it. So hopefully we'll win a couple more here in these next couple of years.
Now, like I've been to a bunch of Super Bowls, and you see teams that lose, and then they get back there, and it's okay. I could see from a naked eye, that team's got to stop Patrick Mahomes in the big moment, or that team can't miss a special teams tackle. For you, when you finish second, what do you then try to improve on?
Just on everything, for last year was kind of a learning year for me, my first year in the PBR. So I just took everything as a learning phase. The World Finals, I had pressured moments where I had to stay on and still be in the race for a world title. So it took my mental game in a lot of different ways, how to just kind of go out there and have fun and not think about it, and it's not over till it's over. So.
This could be a really dumb question. I'll preface it that way. Are there like certain scouting reports on bowls, like, hey, a team will scout, all right, we know this defense. Like, do you know when you get on a bowl that there's going to be some tougher bowls than others?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like at the World Finals, it was the last day. It was the last two bowls we got on, and it was this bowl is called Big Bank, and they don't really ride him very often. Like that round was kind of a harder to ride bulls. Like you look at the draw and you're like, all right, these are going to be tougher. So I drew this bull and I was not confident at all. It was like, what the heck? Like I drew this bull today, this day, had to be this day. And I was like, okay, it's all right. I just went out there and I got my highest smart grade of my career, was 95 points. And I was just surprised myself because I had to stay on to be in the world title race. I was just like, okay, maybe it's possible. If I rode this bull, I'm good. I can ride about anything. So,
John Crimber here with us for a few more minutes in studio. The first time I've heard of you was the Travis Hunter video, actually.
Yes, sir.
Because that goes into our world, and you've had a cool relationship now with Travis Hunter. Tell the listening audience about that.
It was really special for me because I've always been a fan of Travis Hunter, and we were sitting there at Fort Worth Countdown Coliseum for the PBR World Finals, and I'm fixing to get on, and my buddy texted me. He's like, dude, Travis Hunter's here. I was like, there is no way this guy is here at the World Finals. Like, just what are the possibilities of this guy being here? And Kate Harrison, she's a video, she interviews people over there. She called me. She's like, hey, come do an interview real quick. I was like, okay. And out of nowhere, someone just pokes me on my shoulder, and I look back, and it's Travis Hunter. I'm like, what the heck? That's wild. Like, it just caught me off guard, and I told him he hadn't won the Heisman yet, and I was like, I'm going to hit the Heisman for you. He's like, okay. I rode my bull, hit the Heisman, and it blew up, and ever since then, we kind of kept in contact, and I told him, I said, whenever you're in Texas, come on, I want to show you a little bit of my culture, because he likes that stuff. He loves fishing, hunting, and I wanted to show him a little bit about bull riding, too, so whenever he comes down there, you'll probably see a couple videos of us. Might put him on a bull. We'll see.
But that's such a cool moment, right? Because we know what he's accomplished, and we know what you've accomplished. For you to just kind of be a kid in a moment like that and be in awe of someone had to be pretty neat.
Oh, yeah. It made me feel really special because, it's like us meeting Patrick Mahomes or something like that, like a really famous guy. And I was just like a fangirl, and I was like, man, I kind of felt weird, but I was like, you know what? It's a moment that's probably unforgettable moment for me. So
I'm glad you bring up Mahomes, right? Because I get this release, like a bunch of notes on you, and it says John Crimber is hailed as a generational talent. He's lived up to the hype as the most exciting young bull riding prospect to emerge in recent history. You look at Patrick Mahomes, right? He's the emerging star, the generational talent in the NFL. You know how much weight and clout that carries. For you to be that now in the bull riding world, I see your face lighting up just by that.
Yeah.
It's got to kind of be surreal when you hear that in the same sentence.
Oh, yeah. It makes me feel good about myself because just showing that hard work and all that dedication, it's paying off. Guys like him, I look up to him too because of just how he takes the pressure, and he doesn't faze him at all. He just goes out there and plays the game and is having fun. So for me, I try to do the same thing. Just go out there and have fun, and everything has a consequence. And being good, I guess, is sometimes having people talk to you about like that.
Yeah. Last thing I'll ask you: you have a lot of people that are going to tune in, and they'll know who you are. But there'll be some people that they expected us to be talking college football right now, and only college football right now. For people that don't know about you, what do you want them to know about you?
Just that I'm just a little 19-year-old kid living the dream. That's about it. That's it. That's all you got to know. That's me.
What kind of music you like?
Man, I love country music. I like rap. I listen to rap before I get on my Bulls and stuff. So.
Oh, that's the pregame playlist is rap.
Yes, sir.
What kind of artist is?
NBA Youngboy.
Okay.
I try to get in that mode where I'm like, all right, this thing's dead for me. So I try to listen to guys like him, just kind of get me fired up, get that motor running.
Yeah, like how else do you, besides music, how else do you get in the zone before you get up on a bull?
Man, I try to actually before every time before I go to the event, I sit there in my room and I play Johnny Manziel's documentary, and I watch the part where he played Alabama, where everyone doubted him, no one thought they would win, and he just tweeted that deal: give to them nothing and take from them everything. And after that, I was like, all right, I'll turn it off and I'll go to the arena, and that's what kind of fires me up too. Just listening and watching how he goes about it as well. So I try. Well, not too much about how he goes about it because he did that. Yeah, a little less partying, but that point right there. Well, that's when I listen to it.
It does seem as if though, right? Because sometimes everyone just gets in their lane and it's like, okay, you probably emulate and try to replicate what other bull riders have done in the past. It seems as if you take a lot from other athletes.
Yes, sir. I love looking at Kobe Bryant. He's a guy that had a mentality I never seen, and I try to look at different athletes and see how their mental game is, and the great ones, and that's what I do, and I try to replicate their mentality and take it to bull riding.
Well, I appreciate you coming in once again. For more information on the event coming up this weekend at Madison Square Garden, which I can't wait to be in attendance for on Saturday evening, you can check it out all weekend long, Ticketmaster.com. John Crimber, good luck and appreciate you coming on in.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
All righty, we will take a time out. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We have Notre Dame and Georgia playing right now. The winner will get the Penn State Nittany Lions. I will save you the score update so Ack could do his job as he's standing by with the latest Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
And it has been a great defensive battle and a big defensive play just a moment ago. Notre Dame took a 6-3 lead on Mitch Jeter's second field goal of the first half from 48 yards out. And then on the next play, the Fighting Irish forcing a fumble, Gunnar Stockton coughing it up, and Riley Leonard has just connected on a touchdown pass. After the fumble recovery, Jordan Faison, the 13-yard reception, and Notre Dame with now 9 points in the final minute of the first half to go in front 12-3 with a point after, or perhaps 2-point conversion pending. Add another quarterback to the mix for the NFL draft as Alabama's Jalen Milroe announced he's entering. The Lions' strong season has resulted in Pro Bowl selections for 7 of their players, the most in the NFC, followed by 6 Eagles. The Ravens have the most with 9 players on the AFC roster, but not making that squad is Patrick Mahomes. The Pistons' Jaden Ivey expected to miss most of the rest of the regular season after suffering a broken leg last night. The injury occurred when Cole Anthony slipped and fell into Ivey. The extra point at the Sugar Bowl is good. Notre Dame up by 10, 13-3. I'm Rich Eckler.
The Infinity Sports Network is on your smart speaker. All you have to say is play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick. We're from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh, my God, we're back again.
All righty, this is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. This portion of the show is brought to you by Ethos Life, the easy way to get life insurance in 10 minutes, up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Just a few health questions. Get your free quote at checkethos.com. Not available in all states. You know, the cowboy hat is a very interesting look. I kind of like it. You know, maybe I'll do NFL picks in the cowboy hat tomorrow. Potentially. What did BT used to do back in the day? Oh, now I'm a back in the day guy. Remember when BT would dress up? What did BT call himself? Sharp Tierney. That's right. That used to be the funniest thing when I used to do the 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern time slot. BT, right, he's got so much bravado. and would just be walking in the newsroom. I got to get into character, bro. And I'm like, what the heck do you mean? And he would emerge out of the bathroom in like a fur coat, sunglasses, a chain, and he would be Sharp Tierney. Oh, I don't know how his picks were. I'm assuming if you're dressing up like that, BT definitely feeling himself, definitely had to be having a very good year. But there was a while, at least a 2-year stretch where he was Sharp Tierney. I had a 3-0 week last week, which I was very happy about, especially when Mraz was talking all that crap. He's like, I'm going to teach Zach Gelb a lesson how to do picks. Gets on the air. He's 14 games under 500, we find out down the hall, Mraz, for his NFL picks this year. Now, I went 3-0. Mraz went 2-1. So Mraz had a good week. Guest pickers now, 30-18 on the season on this show. I am, every week, just picking right as myself, Zach Gelb. I am 28-20. So we're trying to finish strong coming up tomorrow for the last regular season installment of NFL Picks, as I am 28-20, and our guest pickers are 30-18. You've been listening to our guest pickers and me this year in terms of picks. You've been winning some cash. I enjoyed that conversation, by the way, with John Crimber, professional bull rider. And that's a humble kid. 19 years old, man. And, sound like a vet already when we were talking to him. So, pretty cool story that we got to hear about in his relationship with Travis Hunter. And also, Stu, see, here's the thing. That was pitched to me, that interview. And at first, I'm like, I know nothing about bull riding. I still know nothing about bull riding. I'm going to ask you what I think is a stupid question. Because I'm sure there's going to be a P1 in the bull riding community that's like, oh, how do you not know that? Oh. So when I don't know something, I just tell you I don't know something. But when we got pitched that, it was like, what happens if I told you we could get you one of the biggest phenoms in the sport of bull riding right now? And I'm like, that doesn't really do it for me. No offense. And then in the pitch, it was, and he's good friends with Travis Hunter. And at the time, that was when it was like, Colorado this, Colorado that, Colorado this, Colorado that. And I'm like, boom, let's get it happen. And then they said, you want to come to the event on this weekend? See, I asked him to sell me on the event. He's like, yeah, you may like it, you may not. I thought that was awesome. So I have no clue what to expect. But I was really engaged in that interview. I would have had him on for 10, 15 minutes. And I didn't look at the TV screen once when we have a second-round college football playoff game on the line and the winners get in Penn State. And when the interview started, it was 3-3. Then I look up, and we're sitting there, 13-3 now? So they got another field goal, Notre Dame, and then they got a touchdown. And the touchdown was scored by Faison, who joined us last week. It wasn't Faison. They messed it up on the TV?
They messed it up on the TV. It's Bo Collins.
Those SOBs at ESPN. That was they put Faison on the screen, though, right?
They did, yes. They 100% did. I said to myself, that's not Faison.
So ESPN yesterday, Disney, they were late for the second touchdown that Texas scored in overtime. And you can't even get the right name of the guy that scored on the screen. Here I am thinking, oh, look, little Zach Gelb Show karma for Jordan Faison, who went to Notre Dame originally as a lacrosse player, won a national championship, walked on the football team, and last year was the MVP of whatever irrelevant bowl game that Notre Dame was in. I think it was the Sun Bowl, if memory serves me right. And he ended up leading the team in receiving for their opening round victory up against Indiana. So 13-3 at halftime, Stu. Going into this game, you had a 47% confidence that Notre Dame was going to win the game. Stu is not usually a touch the money guy, celebrate. You're not like Jonathan Taylor a few weeks ago, celebrating before you get in the end zone and then dropping the ball at the 1 yard line.
No, none of that.
Yeah. What's happening with your mic?
Sorry, none of that. This is far from over.
Okay. So you got to be at least 60% now, right?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I would say like 63%, something like that. Something in the low 60s. I think they have a good advantage here, and they just got to control the ball, no stupid turnovers, no lapses on defense, and they'll win.
So they just get a field goal stop, and then they scored a touchdown?
They got a field goal, and then on the first play, there was like 30-something seconds left in the half, and Georgia decided to drop back instead of running it out to halftime, and they got a strip sack at like the 15, and then the next play was a throw to the end zone.
Yeah, I also wonder what cologne Crimber was wearing. And I don't know, when you're around a bowl all the time, you probably got to wear a lot of cologne to get that smell off of you. But there is it smells good. I'm not saying it's a bad smell right now. but I'm getting like a big whiff of cologne in this studio right now. Right? And even my hand, shake his hand goodbye. Like, even my hand now smells like cologne. So, if we had like Jersey Jerry here from Barstool, he'd be able to tell us what the cologne was. Jerry Fragrance. Who used to call us back in the day when I was on the weekend overnight. Now, man, I'm starting to sound old. That's the second time now I've done that just in the segment. Back in the day. Jeez, I'm going to be a back in the day guy. I don't like that whatsoever. So Notre Dame is a half away from winning their biggest game under Marcus Freeman. That would set us up for a Thursday Orange Bowl between Notre Dame and Penn State. Oh, it's going to be a fun week of radio. If we get Hickey against Stu, Notre Dame, Penn State, that's going to be fun. Stu, I don't know what the prices are on that ticket. Have you thought about going to the Orange Bowl? A lot of these college football playoff games have been nothing to get in.
I've not. Maybe it has to be something I think of, though. Although I did just take 12 days off from work.
And you also just touched the money there.
Yeah.
Because now if Notre Dame gets smoked here in the second
Georgia,
half.
Penn State, enjoy, everyone.
Yeah. Who do you think Hickey wants to play? Georgia or Notre Dame? Who do you think? I asked him this.
Probably Notre Dame. I feel like he fears Notre Dame less than Georgia.
He said Notre Dame because Riley Leonard can't throw the football, so it'd be similar to Boise State.
Yeah.
That's what he said. Let me tell you, Stu. If Notre Dame wins this game, you have to find a way for Notre Dame to beat Penn State. If we're sitting here and we have to hear Hickey talking about Penn State in a national championship game, I know I just signed a brand new contract here, but I may have to resign. I don't know if I could stomach listening to that Penn State homer just tell us, oh, Penn State this, Penn State that, Penn State this, Penn State that for, the week leading up to the game. And then you got Ohio State and Texas. So I told you before the playoffs started, I had Oregon going up against Notre Dame. So I will revise that and now have Ohio State going up against Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame's going to hold on here in the second half. Let's hope, or else Stu's going to be miserable tomorrow. And I don't want to deal with Stu being miserable. And then we'll have to see if Notre Dame can take down Penn State. But if Ohio State's not in a championship game, man, I wouldn't be opposed if Texas gets there. I would love it. Oh, how fun would that be? If Texas beats Ohio State after what they've done the last 2 weeks. But right now, I think Ohio State's winning it all. All right, that will do it for the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll recap Notre Dame and Georgia. Also get you set for a final football weekend in the NFL in terms of the regular season and so much more. Big thanks, John Crimber, for joining us today. Big thanks to Stu Kovacs, Samter. Great to have Ack back as well off the surgery. And we'll talk manana, everybody, at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific time. Will the Bulldogs come on back, or will Stu be jumping for that pot of gold with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish? Talk tomorrow, everybody. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.